God, what even happened last time? Eustace is now our enemy. Hedwig is now gay. Everyone is gay, actually. Everyone except the Mother Superior, I guess. Everyone else is gay. And we still don't know who's like murdering people or if like Satan is here at all. I don't know. That's besides the point at this point, I think. They didn't rule out Angela. That's right, Claire. Your crack ship is still it's still possible. All right, let's go. That night, the strange painting I'd encountered in the cellar invaded my dreams. Oh yeah, the jump scare painting. Wonderful. And that was not my only worry. It will not shock you to hear that any and all confidence I had felt going to bed was gone by the time I awoke. In fact, when I dragged myself out of bed, all I could think about was Eustace's declaration that we were now enemies. Dare I go to service? Dare I even step outside of my room? It turned out I would not even have to dare. Yes? It's me. May I come in? Do I have a choice in the matter? We need to talk. Well, I thought we already talked! We like had a fucking like a little fight. I think you made yourself quite clear last night. I hope I did. But I also said something I regret. Oh? I told you that we were enemies. And, well, I don't really mean that. I'm not going to attack you, or be cruel to you, or anything of that sort. We do need to get along, after all. You'll be living here for a long time, God willing. What I mean to say is, I am angry with you, and I still believe what you are doing is wrong, and I will continue to fight it. But, I do not hate you, and I do not wish to harm you. I let my temper get the better of me last night. Okay. I wasn't expecting this kind of, okay, alright, okay. I had half a mind to leap out the window. This, to be perfectly honest, felt even more intimidating than her behavior in the cellar. That threat you made, that you know why I'm here. I do. Well, I don't know what you could be referring to. I scarcely remember anything from before I took the oath. Whatever it is you think you're holding over my head, I don't remember what it is, not in the slightest. I find that rather hard to believe, Hedwig. I promise! Do you? I wouldn't. Promises keep getting you into trouble, don't they? Even if I do believe that you have no earthly idea what I'm talking about, I do very much know what brought you here. I still, like, did she get hurt and she forgot? Or did she, like, repress something? I'm wondering. And, well, it's something that nobody would very much like to hear. And if it truly would be a surprise to you, well, it would be a rather unhappy surprise, wouldn't it? So, I think my side of the board looks quite good. How does yours look? All I want to do is chronicle everything I can, for the sake of her memory, you know. Spare me, Hedwig. You know that I know what you're really up to. I want to do all of that for the very reason I just told you. Her memory is important to me despite your insistence that I didn't know her. Be that as it may, I think you should relax. Leave the mystery be. Isn't that the Catholic thing to do anyway? Without mystery, there's no reason to have faith in anything. Have a little faith. Believe whatever you want about Catherine, but stop making it my problem. You're making it your problem! You're making it your problem! Remember how the guy in the future mentioned royalty? Ooh. Ooh, Claire, you're onto something. Your problem, our problem. Everyone here. You might have fooled some of the sisters, but the second they discover the truth, they'll turn on you. Nobody likes a sneak. I hated that she was right. Justified or not, I was a sneak, a liar, a thief, a pervert. All this is to say, I'm giving you another chance. God struck down Uzzah for touching the Ark of the Covenant when it slipped. Remember how slighted David felt when Uzzah was only trying to help? I understand how you must feel. But remember, God gave specific instructions and Uzzah did not follow them. As simple as it gets. You are not God. No, but I could strike you down well enough. And I would be right to. And you say we are not enemies? Listen to yourself. And God was not Uza's enemy. I have to be firm, Hedwig. But I would like to be friends. She strolled over to my writing desk and picked up my workbook. I'll be taking this. I'm sure you'll understand. I thought you said you didn't want to be cruel. This is for your own good. God, fucking get off your fucking horse. Jesus Christ, she thinks she knows everything. As I said, have a little faith. Actual God complex going on here. God damn, Eustace. So, shall we walk to service? I had no recourse. Very well. It is with some shame that I must admit I scarcely paid attention to the liturgy that day. I was lost in my own thoughts. Was this really the end of the road? It felt like Eustace had me by the throat. Even if I had no idea what she was talking about in regards to my past, she did have me in check. For all I knew, she was simply threatening to tell a salacious lie, one that might ruin my reputation for good. Truth or no, the idea that I could spend the rest of my life hated by my fellow sisters was a frightening prospect. I weighed my options in my head. It would disappoint the superior, but I hated to say it, that did not matter much. What could the superior do to me? Versus Eustace, who it seemed could definitely ruin the rest of my days. Angela would be disappointed, but that seemed to be a constant. I gazed up at the ceiling of the chapel. Catherine. That's who I would be disappointing. And if that idea did not move me, if the stories of her strangeness and her flightiness were not enough to sway me away from her defense, then would I not be disappointing God? After I had already disappointed him, disobeyed him. If I was not already hellbound for allowing myself to be removed from my cell, then surely I would be twice condemned if I gave up on finding justice for a lost nun. And what's more, if Eustace truly did retaliate against me, I would endure a lifetime of misery, but eternal salvation after. Could Eustace say the same? That was all well and good, of course, but how exactly would I continue? I looked down from the ceiling and accidentally locked eyes with Angela, who was looking at me disapprovingly from a pew ahead of me. She was irritated that I was not paying proper attention, no doubt. Sister Angela. It all fell into place. I couldn't investigate Catherine anymore, but Angela could. She was unpleasant, but she was nothing if not driven, and I even knew which direction to point her. Eustace and company. I couldn't help myself. I smiled, relieved that I had navigated through this mire so quickly. Just make Angela do it! It's that simple! Hedwig, you're a genius. I'm sure Angela will love to do this. Angela furrowed her brow, then turned away to face the pulpit. That pact Angela had forced me into would come in useful after all. I was still grinning when service concluded. Normally, I would have wallowed for a whole day, perhaps multiple days after an encounter like this morning's. But here I was, back on my feet already. After service, we all filed out into the courtyard as usual. Hedwig, some of us are going to go to the river with Eustace later. Do you want to come along? Really? Goodness, and here I was thinking the fishing spot was something of a secret. I've been tight-lipped about it for a while, but I can't hide it forever. Everyone can benefit from a little fresh air, right, Hedwig? Of course, I'd be happy to come along. Eustace looked slightly taken aback by my quick acquiescence. We'll leave in about half an hour. It'll be too cold to fish soon. I'm not really interested in fishing, but I do like to stretch my legs every now and then. Be back before sundown. Our new oblate should be arriving this afternoon. Of course. The superior nodded, then took her leave. Everyone else broke away as well. I looked around to see if I could spot Sister Angela. She was bringing up the rear by herself, as per usual. I moved to intercept her, and she looked taken completely by surprise. Sister Angela, I must speak with you. If you are available. Hedwig, I did my best to steer her toward the path to the garden. She was much taller than me, which made this more difficult than I expected. I ended up tugging her sleeve and nearly falling over as I tried to guide her. Hedwig! What is the meaning of this? I must speak with you! Yes, you said as much. I glanced at the others who weren't paying us any mind, but still too close for comfort. It's about, well, you know. She finally relented, although she violently yanked her sleeve from my grip before following me into the garden. We walked as casually as we could. I kept looking over my shoulder to see if Eustace had noticed us, which prompted Angela to hiss at me to keep moving forward. Finally, we arrived between the hedgerows. Sister Angela, I need your help. I've been trying to offer it for some time now. It is something else. Well, it is related, but... Spit it out. My investigation is compromised. Angela arched one eyebrow and flared her nostrils. I braced myself for the worst, but she continued speaking quietly. Oh? Eustace caught on, and she was furious too. She made all sorts of threats against me and was adamant that I stop. Sounds like you have a primary suspect then. Why else would she react so poorly? My thoughts exactly. That sounds like progress to me, even if you shouldn't have let her catch you. Although I have no evidence, and I think there's something more complicated to it all. Explain. Well, if the matter was that simple and she thought I knew about it, why was I already trying to talk myself out of my convictions? Hearing them spoken aloud prompted me to second guess everything, I suppose. She would kill you immediately. Is that what you think? Exactly! But instead she keeps warding me away from things, insisting that I accept the lie that James was responsible, attempting to be my friend, telling me I'm being protected. All steps on a ladder that could very well end with your death, Hedwig. She might simply be biding her time, or she might not want to kill you if she can avoid you. Death weighs heavy on the soul, even for a practiced killer. I suppose so, but that does not satisfy me. Say I went to the superior and the bishop and told them Eustace discovered what I was up to and reacted poorly. Would that be enough to make them act? Absolutely it would. The superior is looking for any excuse to act, which is why you and I formed the pact in the first place. We can be thorough and prevent her from barreling into the wrong decision. In that case, I think I'm making the right choice. I am not ready to condemn Eustace just yet. In fact, the more I think about this, the more confident I become in my decision. If Eustace knew what I was up to, she would be worried that I would do exactly that. Give her up to the superior at the first sign of strange behavior. So she's acting this way. I think she might truly believe she is trying to protect me from something. Following this reasoning, the question must be, from what? I'm not sure. Let us say I agreed with you. I do not, just to be clear, and offered to help. What would you want from me? I already told Eustace I would cease investigating, and, well, I feel that it's in my best interest to at least appear to honor that, which would bring things to a halt. But then I remembered our pact. Indeed. I could see a realization passing across her face. I mean, I don't think this really changes anything, does it? You're always investigating in parallel, I thought. And now it gets to be your responsibility in total. Or, well, not in total. You can do what I cannot. Eustace is wary of me, but not you. Sister, Eustace barely knows I exist. Exactly! Angela did not share my enthusiasm for this detail. So what would you do in this new arrangement? Collect my observations and report them to the superior? Claim credit for all of my work? No! You can even tell the superior what happened if you like. No. This could work. Perhaps. We would tell nobody else, not even the superior. Of course. What is it you need me to do exactly? I explained my previous strategy to her, my notes, my surreptitious attempt to frame my questions as part of chronicle work. Angela looked grave and eventually shook her head. I cannot do that. You were in an advantageous position before. You could get away with lie as flimsy at the chronicling premise. Not I. I do not have that kind of rapport with anyone else here. Then surely you can come up with a different tactic? I would have to become an entirely different person to be able to speak with the others as freely as you can. I scarcely think I speak freely with them. Far more freely than I can. Angela had an oddly wistful expression. Oh, is she lonely? Oh, is she kind of lonely? You would still have a job to do. I cannot snoop on everyone for you. You will still need to be the one mingling with the rabble. But Eustace cannot know. The old method will have to be abandoned, that much is apparent. You will simply have to redouble your efforts at subterfuge. How could I possibly do that with Eustace watching my every move? You will have to become a better actress. Stay in her sight. Be present enough in her life that she believes you would have no opportunity to investigate anything. Ingratiate yourself with her and everyone else. They quite like you, you know. Nonsense. Shut up. They'll fawn over you. This will be an easy crowd for you to please. What on earth do you mean? Haven't you noticed, Hedwig? You're all drooling. Oh no! They all want to fuck the new girl. They slobber like dogs when they see you. Even before you left that cell, they would all talk about you like a piece of meat. What? They have had a wager running. Didn't you know? No, I haven't the barest shred of an idea. Angela leaned forward and gripped my shoulders tightly. She looked slightly mad and spit flew out of her mouth as she hissed at me. They have all been trying to get their fingers inside of you, Hedwig. Oh my god. Holy shit. New tactic! Fuck everyone for clues! Holy shit! The question of who will bed you first has been a topic of discussion since before Sister Catherine died. I staggered backward out of Angela's grasp and nearly tumbled through the hedge behind me. No! Sister Catherine was the ringleader, in fact. That is a lie. That's a lie! It is the truth. For the longest time, nobody seemed to pay much mind that we had an anchoress, but Catherine began to visit you more often. She would return and regale the group of tales of how she flustered you, courted you, taunted you. I remember it clear as day. I was in the Misericorde attempting to relax, and Catherine would simply not cease talking about you, wondering aloud what you looked like behind those walls and under those clothes. Holy shit! Your height, the color of your eyes, how classical your face might be, what shape your breasts might be, and how you might tend to the hair between your legs. I listened to them all pick you apart like vultures. Do you understand, Hedwig? They will listen to anything you have to say if they think it might bring them closer to beating her knuckles against your gun. Angela, you're gonna kill her! Oh my god! Is that seriously the tactic now? Holy shit! Wow! Am I still good to read this on Twitch? Holy shit! Stop! Stop this! I cannot hear any more of this. This is why I have been so cold towards them, Hedwig. This is why I have been warning you against becoming too close. These women aren't your friends. They have all been competing to fuck you first. A dirty, sinful game that I refuse to play. Or have you? That's why they hate me. I never played along. They think I'm spoiling the fun. I did not want to believe it, but it made a certain kind of sense. No wonder everyone put up with me. No wonder Eustace kept trying to get me alone. The world she wanted me to accept, the lackadaisical bliss she promised would follow if I chose to condemn James, involved me giving into this bacchanal. This must be what Eustace has wanted from me all along. She insisted I accept the James story. She said that if I let things go, I could live out my days here happily. A simple, pleasurable life. Well, I am afraid that this is our best remaining vector of attack. What is? Don't you see, Hedwig? If you want to continue this investigation in front of Eustace, you are going to have to convince her you have made that decision. My throat was dry. I could scarcely speak. No, I am afraid so. Be the bait. This is the only way I will be able to help you. You must dive into that world of sin so that I might move freely around the edges. What would you do? I would help you sort the information you gathered, naturally. I am far better versed in the history of this abbey than you. I can tell you who is lying and who is speaking true. Where is that book you have been writing in? I can get started right away. I'll be able to piece it all together far better than you. Eustace took it. Well then, there's something I can do. If you were to distract Eustace, I could retrieve that book from her room. She would suspect me. Not if you were with her when it went missing. She would suspect somebody else then. Perhaps, but not me. To her, I am simply a bothersome spoilsport. And as far as she knows, we despise each other. She would never dream that I was down in the dirt with you. Wow, that's one way to word it after this fucking conversation. We're all going to the stream soon. Is that so? Well, there you have it. I will retrieve the book while you are away. And while you are there, ingratiate yourself. Make yourself seem available. Holy fuck. Chat, I can't take this. I can't fucking deal with this, chat. This is our best chance, Hedwig. I'm surprised at you. Why would you encourage me to do this? Will we not both see hell for this? Perhaps. But if we did, our seats would be comfortable compared to theirs, and that is what matters to me. Even one ring higher in hell suits me if I know that I did the right thing for Sister Catherine's memory. She held her hand out to me just as she had done the night she had strong-armed me into her pact. Deal? I will try to ingratiate myself, as you say, but I can make no promises about my availability. I scarcely know what that would entail, and quite frankly, it might take a while for me to even be able to look any of the sisters in the eye if what you have told me is true. This is our best chance. I did not speak further, but I shook Angela's hand. My whole arm felt leaden. Have a good time at the stream, Hedwig. I'll collect your book. Meet me outside the kitchens tonight and the real work can begin. I nodded slowly. I walked away in a daze and tried to make my way back towards the cloister, one foot in front of the other. I had an inkling that something had been happening out of my sight, I suppose, after Darcy had kissed me by accident. But I had never wanted to believe in any of that, so I never thought about it. I stared at the gravel path beneath my feet as I wandered. So this was why Catherine and Margaret had been so anxious to speak with me after my mishap in the cell. They had been curious who had won their little game. I had answered them truthfully, mostly, but had they believed me? I remembered Adela putting her hand on my knee and stroking my chin. What if she had won? She had come closest so far. Come closest. Not so far. What on earth was I thinking? Girl. You're gonna get laid. I'm sorry. Just... You were doomed by the narrative to get laid. Very terrible, I know. As I reached the stairs, I tilted my head up. Eustace and the others were descending the stairs. She was holding the fishing rod and bucket, chatting merrily as Eustace could, at least, with her friends. About me, I wondered. Hedwig, are you ready? Yes, I was on my way to meet you all. Wonderful. Perfect. One last morning of freedom before the rabble show up. The builders? I meant the new oblates. We walked out into the cloister toward the outer wall. Adela isn't wrong, to be fair. Soon this peaceful little abbey will be overrun with noisy, boorish men. Sounds like paradise for you. Is that complaining? Oh, I'm not looking forward to having them around. I hope they're not rude. I hope they brought their own food. I love their priorities. The chatter continued as we walked down the beaten path to Eustace's fishing spot. Well, I mean, considering they're all fucking each other, it makes me wonder if Eustace and Darcy are, like, exclusive, you know? Because those two seem to have, like, the closest thing to an actual, like, relationship from what we've seen. So I'm wondering about that, you know? I chimed in occasionally, but in a purely perfunctory capacity. My thoughts were elsewhere. I drifted towards the back of the group, and my eyes retreated downward once again. My head was so heavy with worry, I could scarcely keep it upright. I watched everyone's hips sway in front of me as we walked the path. Oh my god, Hedwig. That was a good time as ever to start pretending I cared about this sort of thing. The shapes were quite pleasing, I suppose. Yep, you're fucked. You're so screwed, Hedwig! The rhythmic movement, the brief flashes of the bodies beneath the robes. Hedwig! What are you doing? After a while, the shifting fabric itself became slightly hypnotic. Was this how Catherine and the others looked at me? I felt ashamed for allowing myself to become so entranced. Pretending to be like these sinners was coming all too easily. What would I be, I wondered, if I stooped all the way down to their level of hedonism? Was there a word for what these women were? Homosexuality. Which I had a passing familiarity with from Aquinas' writing. Wasn't quite right. Sex required. Oh my god! Hedwig, please! We gotta give her the talk. We gotta give her the talk! There was no seed wasted between nuns, but something nonetheless compelled them. There was something there to become addicted to, even if it couldn't be called sex. I found myself ill-equipped and uncomfortable. If only there were a more rigid set of categorizations I could sort the world into. Finally, we reached the little trail that led to Eustace's fishing spot. The conversation was too loud and too constant for me to hear the sounds of the forest as clearly, and I had the last time I had followed Eustace here. It made me strangely angry. At the very least, when it came time to straddle and climb over the fallen log that blocked the path, I could still feel it in my hands. The subtle grain, the flaking bark. As I swung my leg across, I was reminded of my uniform's lack of discreet undergarments. I inhaled sharply as I slid across the tree trunk. Everything all right, Hedwig? Yes. Give her some accolades. It wasn't that long ago that she was struggling with stairs. Is that true, Hedwig? Yes. Adela laughed. That is so adorable. Adorable? I knew what she wanted. I've been trying lots of new things since then. You certainly have. I knew what she wanted. As I slid off the tree, Margaret held out her hands to catch mine. Ostensibly to help my balance, I'm sure, but I knew what she wanted. Oh, she feels like a piece of meat, god damn! We eventually emerged into the clearing where Eustace fished. She set to work setting up the rod, and the others set about finding places to sit. All except for Moira, who began wading into the water. You're going to scare the fish. I'm going to help you. I'm going to sort of herd them towards you. That doesn't... You know what? Go ahead. She didn't want to fight, clearly. As I sat on the riverbank, I wondered if she was perhaps trying to put on a show for me. The fun, Eustace, here fishing while her friends. This could all be mine if I simply condemned an innocent man. A shame for this fun new Eustace, then, that I knew the real truth. Look, there's one! She staggered through the water and waved her arms at something in the water. See, if it gets too scared, I don't think it's going to care much about my bait. I'll lead one right to you, you'll see! I glanced around at the others. Darcy was sitting next to Eustace, looking content. Whatever fishing-related rift they had in the past was clearly fixed. Margaret and Catherine were wandering around the riverbank. They saw me looking at them and waved enthusiastically for me to come over. Curious, I stood up and walked over to join them. We were outside of... Lena! Lena, hi! Mods, can we get a shout out for Lena? Oh, the witness! You were in puzzle hell still. Very good. I am in gay nun hell. You 100%ed the witness? Jesus Christ. That is like one hell of an actual accomplishment. There are so many fucking puzzles in that game. And some of those puzzles are hell on earth. Jeez. Well, congratulations. Good work. Smart, Lena. You soft locked yourself? I didn't know that was possible. Ay. Where was I? Oh, God. We were outside of earshot, but I reasoned that chatting with my friends would fall under normal behavior should Eustace feel the need to check on me. You should join us in Catherine's dorm later. I insist, in fact. Oh? What for? Don't you like us? I told Catherine about your chronicling project, you know, filling in the gaps. I went cold. I see. I would be happy to help. It is only right, after all. We were good friends, and I should like to have her memory completely recorded. That is most kind of you, of course. I glanced over my shoulder at Eustace. She was busy arguing with Moira about another fish, it seemed. I suppose the coast was clear enough. Eustace has been very touchy about this. She's expressed a certain amount of, displeasure with my project. Has she now? How odd. Not that odd, really. She always did have a strange relationship with Catherine. Look, we won't tell anybody else. I promise. I hesitated for a moment. It would have to be late tonight. All the better. No trouble. We've got the Oblates arriving and supper and God knows what else. Very well. Thank you. Don't mention it. And we won't either. Yes, that's right. I found a way to close the Wonkavator from outside of it, and I couldn't find a way back into it. So the elevator just closed and fucking did it float away? Like, see you later, loser. Puzzles not restarted. Peace out. That's funny. I nodded at the pair of them, then retreated back to my sitting spot. Eustace was still bickering with Moira, who was now trying to pick fish up with her bare hands. If anyone can do it, it's Moira. I believe in her. Oh, that one was so close. You have no idea. I could have caught one by now, you know. Perhaps two. Yes, but isn't this fun? Yes, this is fun. Darcy's approval was probably the only thing holding Eustace together. Adela was standing on the bank watching Moira keenly. I realized she had begun coaching Moira on technique, although I wasn't sure she was basing her techniques on anything. That one there is slower than the rest. Where? Circling your left ankle. Moira ducked down and snatched at the water, catching nothing. A valiant effort. Wait, he came back! Moira reacted swiftly. By some miracle, she held her hand aloft to reveal. I got one! Her triumph was short-lived, however. The fish began to wriggle and resist, and it slipped out of her grip with ease. Moira leaned forward to try and catch it out of the air, but ended up falling face first into the water. Everyone began to laugh uproariously. Adela, in particular, was doubled over with laughter, in danger of falling into the water herself. I looked over at Eustace, who was chuckling ruefully, presumably at Darcy's encouragement. Moira pulled herself to her feet, completely drenched. She looked embarrassed at first, but began to laugh along with the others as she stumbled back to shore. I had him! You all saw! You look absurd, Moira! Moira giggled sheepishly and began to wring out her skirt on the riverbank. I don't think that's gonna work, Moira. Margaret and Catherine had wandered back over to the group, both of them grinning. You're going to smell of pond water until that's cleaned. Take it off. A salacious whooping sound emerged from the other women. Oh, it's getting gay again. Oh, it's getting gay again. Oh my goodness. Moira held her hands up sheepishly. You'd all like that, wouldn't you? Yes. We're worried about your health, dear. You'll catch cold. That's right. Moira grinned and bent down to grab the hem of her skirt, then yanked it up violently to flick droplets of water toward Adela, Catherine, and Margaret. I do have censorship mode on, right? Okay, it is. Sorry, I still do need to not get nuked off the internet. They all ducked, sputtered, and laughed in protest. Nice try, you lot. Oh, she didn't actually do it. I'll put it in the laundry when we're back at the Abbey. And then what? Do you have a spare? Afraid so. Alas, I do not. Why is that, I wonder? Catherine did not respond to this jab. It seemed good-natured, but I remembered how touchy she had been in the Superior's office the night her dalliance with James had been revealed to me. I had assumed she wanted to keep it a secret from the Superior, but perhaps it was a secret to all. Never mind that. There's quite a bit of laundry to do anyway. I suppose we should be getting back soon, then. We can't have Moira meeting the new Oblates looking like a wet dog. You go on ahead. I'd still like to try and catch something. I will stay as well. I'll stay. I am enjoying the breeze, I must admit. I will catch up. Fair enough. See you all later. We simply must put on a good display for the new sisters. Margaret and Catherine escorted a dripping Moira back toward the forest path. Quietude returned. Darcy rested her head on Eustace's shoulder. Adela wandered back towards the three of us. Yeah, those two are just straight up girlfriends. She stretched and yawned in front of me, pulling her frock tight against her body. I knew what she wanted, and despite myself, I gave her just a bit of it. You look good in this light, Sister Adela. Thank you, Hedwig. She beamed at me and lingered in her stretched position for a moment. Eventually, she sat down, and after a moment, put her head on my shoulder the way that Darcy's rested upon Eustace's. God! She is not giving it a rest! She is shooting her shot repeatedly. She is a Gatling gun of gay. I wanted to resist, but did not. I knew what she wanted. World's least subtle flirt? I don't think she's trying to be subtle. New victims. I'm wondering what these new oblates are gonna be like. I don't know anything about them. The rest of the excursion continued in silence. Eustace never caught anything. Perhaps Moira's antics were to blame, or perhaps it was just luck. Regardless, Eustace seemed to be sulking a bit when Darcy gently reminded her of our obligations back at the Abbey. She deconstructed the fishing rod and picked up her bucket of bait while the rest of us stood up and brushed our cloaks off. Adela gently tugged my sleeve as Darcy and Eustace walked ahead of us, urging me to stay behind a moment. I didn't particularly want to dip out of my suspect's sight, but I had no choice. Pushing past Adela would have looked quite rude. Yes? Sister Hedwig, you are very sweet. So are you, Sister Adela. I understand I made you uncomfortable the other night. However, I see the way you look at me. I could even feel your eyes upon me as we walked here. She leaned forward to whisper in my ear, I would show you more, if you would like to see. Holy shit. Oh my god. Ah! All the hairs on my body stood on end. She reached for my hands and held them gently. There had been a small part of me that had wanted to discredit Angela, to return to her this evening triumphant, with tales of how her assertions had all been a misunderstanding, perhaps even a lie on Angela's part, and that none of my peers were interested in me in that manner. But here I was. Adela, a woman who I had to admit was very beautiful and commanding, but who I scarcely knew. God, she's so gay! Was inches away from my ear, whispering sinful suggestions. And I would show you what you had missed, locked away for all of those years. Dear Sister Hedwig, make yourself available. I recalled Angela's words, but they did not sit well with me. I was sure that Adela was very beautiful under her frock, but all of this felt wrong. I chose a cowardly middle path. Perhaps later. Adela, I am very flattered, but this was all a bit sudden. I understand, Sister Hedwig. She stroked my wrists, then let go of my arms. She looked slightly wistful. I panicked, realizing that I had not done my part to keep her on the hook. I gave her a little kiss on the cheek, mind you, which seemed to brighten her spirits. Keep trying. You are full of surprises, Sister Hedwig. I shall. You know, for someone that hates this, that supposedly hates this, Hedwig sure knows what to say, huh? I'm just glad you're not uncomfortable. I shall. We nodded at each other, then turned to follow Eustace and Darcy back to the Abbey. The Abbey seemed to be in total chaos when we returned. We entered the cloisters to see all of the sisters running to and fro. The superior was standing on the grass, pointing at people and barking orders in a manner I had never seen before. Moira, get changed this instant! I'm sorry, Mother Superior, but I am in the middle of doing laundry. Borrow someone's robes, then. Charity, move those chairs back into the storage room. We've had those there for years now. And you can put them back later, but we want this place looking perfect for our new oblates. Charity grumbled something under her breath and waddled over to the table and chairs that she and Marta often use on the edge of the cloister. I rushed to help her, eager to look useful in front of the Superior. Oh, thanks much, Hedwig. Not at all, not at all. Are the oblates here? They're coming up the hill. The Superior saw them and went a bit barmy all of a sudden. I suppose she wants to make a good impression. We reached the chapel storage room. I opened the door and held it open for Charity. It didn't take long to find a place to set the chairs down. Ta! Now you and Margaret better not go smashing these before I get a chance to put them back in the cloister. We won't. I am only teasing. Goodness, what's wrong? You look lost. I have had a very long day and I'm worried about how the others see me. Charity blinked. She looked as if she hadn't been expecting such a straightforward answer out of me. Of course, it wasn't really so straightforward. But I'm sure it must have seemed like a radical departure from my previous meekness. You know, chat, what are we thinking? Do Charity and Marta have something going on? You know? I was kind of wondering about that. My real feelings, of course, were always one shelf higher than the ones I was happy displaying. Everyone thinks you're lovely, Hedwig. What on earth are you talking about? Just hot feelings, I suppose. Haha, I see. Are you worried the new sisters will sap some of your attention? Oh, that's just how it goes, my dear. Well, no, not exactly. No use hiding it. The new ones always get a little extra. Everyone likes things new and shiny, don't they? I don't think that's true. Of course it is. You don't waste time with me and Marta, do you? I'm not offended. We're old and boring. That's fine. Marta and I have each other. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, okay. Well, there you go. Yeah, there you go. Anyway, the new ones are a bit young, aren't they? Things might not change for you at all. Oh, good. We wandered back to the cloister where the Superior was still standing and shouting. I suppose I should spend more time with you and Marta. Only if you want to. We wouldn't want you to miss out on having proper fun. Well, Marta might, but she can be a bit of a curmudgeon. But she gets her fill of young folk from Flora, and that drives her mad, so... Oh, speak of the devil. Catherine had wheeled Flora in front of the Superior, and the two were arguing heatedly. All I asked was that you tried. That's a stupid, bloody thing to try, so I won't. Catherine slipped away from the wheelbarrow to speak with me and Charity. What are they bickering about? Soup asked her to try standing up. She did not! I'm afraid so. Flora's holding her own, though, as you can see. I've heard nothing but complaints from you about the wheelbarrow. I thought you'd relish the opportunity. To what, fall over in front of everyone? Fine, stay in the bloody wheelbarrow. As if it's my choice. I just want things to look perfect when they get here. Well, I apologize for breaking my fucking leg. I should have thought about that before. Enough! The Superior caught my eye suddenly and shifted her attention immediately. Hedwig, go tidy your desk in the library. I wasn't about to argue with her. Yes, Your Reverence. See? That is the manner of respect I want to hear from you all. No argument, no questions, just doing as I ask. I scurried away to the stairs. I entered the library and hurried to my desk, unsure of how exactly to make it any tidier, but willing to waste some time figuring it out to avoid embarrassment downstairs. I straightened the ink pot and quills and attempted to make some of the book piles more stable, but earnestly there was not much that could be done to improve the space. I fussed with it as much as I could until the door burst open. Eustace entered, looking harried. Hedwig? What are you doing here? I realized I had never been left to my own devices in the library before. The door had been unlocked on my way in. She must have already been attending to something. The Superior told me to tidy my desk. Why? Oh god, I hope the new oblates aren't going to be working in here. I don't know, she just demanded I go and I didn't want to argue. She's a bit high-strung, I hadn't noticed. She sighed deeply. She wanted me to check on the sword. It's still there, just like I told her. I suppose that is an important thing to keep track of. Yes, it's part of my job as a sacrist. Not that it matters to her. I had fun at the stream. That's grand. I couldn't help but be annoyed by her demeanor. For someone who had threatened me with grave retribution not long ago, Eustace didn't seem to particularly care that I was, as far as she knew, doing exactly what she had demanded of me. You done with your desk? I think so. Good. Go see if the superior needs anything else. I need to run a quick shelf inventory. You don't want any help? No. I swallowed what I wanted to say to her and left. She could fuck herself on her bloody shelves for all I cared. Oh, shit. Hedwig! Damn, girl! Ay, ay, ay! I jogged back down the stairs. Look at me now, Catherine! And raced into the cloister, but nobody was there. I could hear voices echoing from the direction of the workshop and gate, where the cart to the village had been prepared many days ago. So the oblates were here. I ran to catch up with everyone. I could see them crowded around a horse-drawn carriage, but I saw no new faces yet. I could hear the bishop's voice, although he was too far away to understand. One of the black shapes turned around. The superior had heard my footsteps echoing through the archway. She walked over to me briskly and whispered hoarsely, "Where were you?" "Cleaning my desk, as you asked." "I didn't think you'd need that long." "Never mind that. Where's Eustace?" She was in the library as well. She mentioned something about inventory." "Go back and get her!" "My god, this is a disaster!" I glanced behind her. Everything seemed quite calm. "She can organize her books later. We have new sisters to welcome." "Go! Go!" God, she's so fucking neurotic! I bolted away and dashed back up the stairs to the library door. I prayed that Eustace hadn't locked it behind her. Mercifully, the door swung open when I pushed the handle. Why do I feel like Hedwig is about to see something she's not supposed to? I entered the room hastily. "Eustace? Eustace!" No answer. I peered into the rows of shelves. There was no obvious sign of her. I crept forward. I knew that she was very precious about her books and wanted me nowhere near the back of the library. "Eustace? The superior is looking for you. The new oblates are here and she wants all of us there to greet them." Music, hello. "Eustace?" I was beginning to get irritated. "Are you ignoring me? I know we've been arguing lately, but I'm trying to do exactly what you asked. New oblates are here. A time to redouble our efforts as an abbey, just like the superior said, yes? I'm willing if you are." Still nothing. How rude I thought she was being. "Where are you, Eustace?" I'd wandered further into the shelves than I had intended to. It was very dark here. So dark that I could barely see the spines of the books surrounding me. As I pressed forward, I stumbled. I looked down and saw that there were many books scattered across the floor. The shelves surrounding me were a mess, too. It looked as if she had torn through them looking for something. I was tempted to pluck something from the shelf and flip through it just to spite Eustace, but I thought better of it. I suppose that whatever she was doing was part of her system and that inventory was messy work. I peered into the dark one last time, then turned around to head back. Leaving felt much faster than entering. I must have been quite hot-headed. I really do not like the feeling of this. I left the library and let the door slam. The superior looked livid when I returned about Eustace. What the fuck was that? There was something weird there. Luckily, the bishop was still talking, so my return did not cause any incident. I made as apologetic a face as I could and whispered to the superior, "I have no idea where she is. I looked all through the library and I couldn't find her." "Really? That little gutter snipe! You're sure? You checked everywhere? She can get lost in her own head sometimes. I looked all over and shouted her name. Nothing." "Huh. Perhaps she went to the latrine?" "Perhaps so." The superior took a deep breath and appeared to calm down. If only Eustace could see me here defending her from the superior's wrath. My work was so unappreciated. The bishop finally finished talking. Why do I feel like Eustace is like fucking dead or something? I realized that the carriage doors hadn't even opened yet. The cart's driver looked bored to tears. How rude, I thought. This was to be a very important moment in two young women's lives. Then again, I suppose the bishop had been speaking for a while. I could see the other sisters all shifting on their feet uncomfortably. "It is my honor to welcome two new sheep to Linbarrow Abbey's flock. I present to you Brigid and Violet." He opened the carriage door somewhat awkwardly. There was a smattering of light applause as two young women practically tumbled out onto the road. What are these designs? One of them was tall and reedy, and the other was stout and round. They steadied themselves and stood up, looking flustered. It wasn't half stuffy in there. Aye, why'd you wait until you were done going on and on to let us out? We've been in there for weeks, feels like. The bishop chuckled. I suppose I got away from myself. Too right. Oh, be nice to him. We're out. We're oot now. We're oot. Is that Irish or Scottish or something? The pair of them had very strong accents. The superior stepped forward, her arms outstretched. She was beaming. You wouldn't have thought she had been irrationally furious moments ago. Welcome to Lynnbarrow Abbey, my children. She kept walking forward, and the young oblate seemed to intuit that the superior meant to embrace them. They'd allowed her to, although neither of them looked particularly thrilled. Right, that's enough of that, I think. She pulled away from the superior, looked somewhat taken aback. Margaret leaned over to me. Looks like we might have 3 Floras now, eh? These two seem like total terrors. Perhaps they're just tired from the journey. The whole congregation moved through the archway back into the abbey. You know, their designs kind of suggest to me that they're not really going to be major characters. The bishop waved the carriage driver off. When the reins cracked, the shorter oblate twisted around. Hold up, me things are still in there. Your things? You weren't meant to bring anything. We'll have everything you need here. Aye, but I wanted to bring some keepsakes and the like. Go on and stop him. Hey, Mr. Carriage Man! Oh, no. Well, what happens to all my things then? I can write a letter to the diocese and make sure it gets returned to wherever it needs to. That'd be here with me! The bishop placed his hand on the young woman's back and steered her into the cloister. The fucking face she's making! The taller girl had fallen silent since stepping out of the carriage, but she grabbed her friend's hand and squeezed it tightly. Now, Lynnbarrow Abbey was built many years ago, funded by an anonymous benefactor who wished to bring the work of God to the hills of England. The village of Lynnbarrow, known for its vineyards and livestock, made for a perfect setting to... Why is it so far up the hill then? Please raise your hand to indicate you have a question. Sorry, why is it so far up a hill? Because it gives our cellars the most consistent temperatures for winemaking, or so I am told. It has stood for almost 100 years and has served its community through stewardship, prayer, and of course, the aforementioned winemaking. Lynnbarrow's wines are some of the finest in the country. If you're... Yes? Violet had raised her hand. Is the wine expensive? I do not have exact figures on hand, but I would safely assume that it fetches a fair price for its quality. In fact, famous dignitaries and royal emissaries have, in the past, sought out Lynnbarrow's wine for their stocks. Why is this place in such a state, then? Half the walls look like they're falling to pieces. Yes. Well, 100 years is a long time, and the weather has indeed taken a toll. But not to worry. In fact, there are builders on the way who will arrive quite soon who have been charged with the upkeep of the abbey. Oh, well that's good. The superior continued giving her tour, gesturing from her position in the middle of the cloister to the library, the dorms, her office, and so on. She had clearly put a lot of thought into this. I wondered if I would have received the same treatment had I been any other oblate, or if this was a new idea she was giving a chance. It was hard to focus on her words. Where had Eustace gone? I glanced around at the others. Angela was present. I hoped to God that Eustace hadn't already discovered that the workbook had gone missing. What would happen when she inevitably did find out that someone had pilfered it? I would be the first person she would think of, naturally. Angela caught my eye and gave me a little nod. Curses! Why, oh why had I agreed to this plan? Eustace was likely tearing my dorm to pieces right this moment, pawing through all of my useless evidence. And then she would tear through every other room until she did find it, and she would find it in Angela's room, and then... Sister Hedwig? Yes? I inquired as to whether or not you would be available in the coming days to show our new charges your work. Bridget has expressed keen interest. Oh, yes, Superior, of course, I would be delighted. Very good. Now, if you would all follow me into the chapel for the ceremony. We passed through the cloister and into the chapel. The superior took the pulpit and gestured for all of us to line up in front of her. The bishop stayed standing with the 2 new oblates, the new sisters facing the old. Catherine was pushing Flora, and it took a moment for her to get into position. Welcome to Lynbarrow Abbey, Daughters of God. Now that you have been given a preliminary overview of the Abbey and its history, I would like to introduce you to your new sisters. Sister Angela, your prioress. Sister Hedwig, our chronicler. She went down the line, introducing all of us as simply and efficiently as she could. This was far more regimented than the experience I remembered in the rectory. And finally, Sister Flora, who I believe is nearest in age to you two. How are you, hen? What? She's asking how you're doing. No, I understand that part. I just think it's a bit obvious how I'm doing, innit? I'm just trying to be nice, cunt. Oh, yeah? Try this! Oh my god! Holy shit! No! The bishop is right there! Oh no! She held out her middle finger. Oh, no. None of this is in the Bible. Violet followed suit. Sisters, please. You've had a long journey and are likely in need of rest. Of course. Once these 2 had been shorn, they can be left with the sisters to be shown around the abbey at their leisure. Shorn? Moira held up the scissors she had been carrying. You know, her hair. Moira looked a little sheepish, clearly recognizing Violet's reticence. Bridget, who had still been silent, placed a hand on her friend's shoulder. I did tell you, didn't I? Aye, but you said you heard this place was a mite less dogmatic. We still hold to the important traditions. Moira had moved behind Violet. Could you take your hood and cap off, please? I'll be quick. You wanted to follow me, right? Aye, of course I did. Bridget tugged her own hood aside, revealing short hair. You already had yours done, then? I took my vows not 2 months ago. Then I don't need to do yours. Well, if it'd help her. Violet was sniffling. It wouldn't. Bridget began to weep as well. I looked down the line of sisters. Everyone looked rather tense. I stared ahead as Violet finally relented. She slowly removed her hood and cap, exposing her voluminous hair. Thought I wouldn't need to. Thought just having the robe would be enough. If it's any comfort, you don't have to keep shearing it. Not here. Really? Really? Very well, then. Moira began to cut the young woman's hair. Both Violet and Bridget began to weep as the bishop began reciting the ceremonial vows. So, you hear that? One of them wanted to take the vows, and the other one was following her. That's interesting. I kind of wonder what their circumstances. I tried my best to stay present, but I could not. The words were piercing my mind like hooks. I felt as if I was being dragged into the past by insistent memories. Oh, repressed memories! Repressed memories! These 2 novices were taking but simple vows, but it was also close to what I remembered. I began to feel ill at ease. I closed my eyes, attempting to fight the feeling, but the room began to feel as if it was spinning. I opened my eyes again, desperate to right myself, but the sudden stop made me feel as if I had lurched to a halt, and the next thing I remember is the stone floor rising up to meet my face. What are these fucking memories, Hedwig? I awoke to a familiar scene, the chapel ceiling above me and Moira's worried face hovering a few inches from mine. Hello? Hello? Sister Hedwig? I could hear raucous laughter coming from somewhere. What is that? Ignore them! Focus on me. Can you hear me? Yes. Yes, I can hear you. Good. Do you remember my name? Sister Moira. Just checking. She dragged me to my feet and patted me on the back. I felt deeply embarrassed to have fallen faint in service once again, but it looked as if nobody else seemed to mind. :3! The laughter was coming from Bridget and Flora, who were pointing not at me, but at Violet, who looked patently ridiculous with a half-shaven head. Violet was laughing too, albeit more nervously than the other 2. Stop it, it doesn't look that silly. It does! You should let her keep it like that. Settle down, everyone! She had retrieved her scissors. I'm going to make sure Hedwig is well. Could someone else finish shearing this one? The superior stepped forward and accepted the scissors somewhat eagerly. Of course. And Margaret, Catherine, would you be so kind as to clean up after Hedwig while Moira checks up on her? She gestured to the pale pile of sick on the flagstone floor. This keeps happening! This keeps happening! Margaret shot me a withering smile. Certainly, Soup. Moira jogged over to me and put an arm around my shoulder and pulled me towards the door. I observed the newcomers as we passed. Violet seemed to be more at peace now. She offered the rest of her hair up to the superior, who smiled warmly and continued the work of cutting it off. Both Bridget and Violet continued to weep, but as they brushed their faces of tears, I could see that they were smiling. I was full of fear and worry and shame. I was certainly frightened that Lynbarrow might not be the right place for them. But watching them fade into the shadow beyond the chapel door as Moira escorted me away, I felt so happy for them. Hedwig is a machine that turns anxiety into vomit. Yeah. Oh, what are we doing? What are we doing? Hedwig, please. There's only so much as I can take. Moira led me up the stairs to my dormitory. I almost protested. After all, what if Eustace was there right now, scrounging around for the missing book? But never found a chance. Moira ushered me into my room gently and closed the door behind us. On the bed, if you please. I sat down at her command. How are you feeling? Rather lightheaded, I must admit. It's been a while since this last happened, has it not? I believe so. Wait here a moment. She disappeared from the room before I could protest. She reappeared almost instantly with a little pouch. I recognized this smell instantly. Menta? Will that help? It will certainly help your breath after all that. Oh. I took some of the leaves and began to chew, feeling embarrassed once again. Now, let me see. Any strenuous physical activity today? Not that I can recall. Just walking to and from the stream with all of you. What have you eaten today? The same as you. And to drink? Wine of breakfast. Again, I believe the same as you. That's right. Not going to squeeze me all over again, are you? Would you like me to? This is a typical humoral imbalance. I think she didn't say no. She didn't say no. Just saying she didn't say no. You're exploring more outside, and you were clearly very emotional at the ceremony. The superior did prattle on a bit, didn't she? That'd flare anyone's temper up. I dare say you've been generating more yellow bile than your body is used to. And out it came. What should I do? Rest, same as always. I can try my best, I suppose. I feel awful. Those girls must think I'm a strange creature indeed. Oh, don't worry so much. Anyway, try and join us for dinner, but don't push yourself, eh? Yes. She smiled warmly and turned to leave. Wait! I had a real opportunity here that I didn't want to miss. While I have you, I've been curious, I suppose, about what happened the morning Catherine was found. I've actually been collecting everyone's stories, you know, so I can fill in the gap, I suppose. Why is the crying sprite here already? I thought it might be a nice way to honor her memory, you know, to finish her work. Moira smiled, but she looked a little glassy-eyed. She wiped her eyes with her sleeve. You're very thoughtful. There isn't much to tell. We had actually all been in the Misericorde the night before, and I was very tired afterward. I nearly slept through Eustace banging on everyone's door. Don't tell her I asked, by the way. When I brought it up with her, she was a little touchy. Oh, poor Eustace. Not to worry, I won't. Thank you. The corners of her eyes flickered upward, and she placed a hand on my shoulder. I'd love to keep you company, Hedwig, but I think the superior would have my head if I didn't go back to the ceremony. We could talk about it in more detail another time, I nodded. Get some rest now. She left my room, shutting the door quietly. Fell backward onto my pillow. Damn it! Hedwig, you fumbled! I could feel the handle of the ruined knife inside. In truth, I felt normal. Not well, mind you. But my brief dizzy spell aside, I saw no reason to rest. My body agreed and refused to be still. I tossed and turned and eventually stood up, unable to coax myself into napping or even staring at the ceiling. There was something hooked inside me. Something that felt like a hook that had caught me between the legs and was tugging me somewhere. Oh my god. Oh my fucking god. Oh, am I gonna be able to read this whole story out loud? Ah, okay. Forcing me to walk, demanding I move. Where it was dragging me, I had no idea. Into another girl's bed, apparently. All I knew was that I ought not be still. I left my room and wandered through the dormitory hall. There was nobody here, naturally. Whoa, music! Hi, Jesus! I could have gone into any room I wanted. I stood outside of Eustace's door. I hadn't even needed Angela to steal my notes back. I could have opened the door right now and taken whatever I wanted. I tittered to myself. Angela's room was open to me as well. I could just claim the book for myself before she had a chance to give it to me. I would have no reason to, but the look on her face might be amusing. Compelled to move again, I bounded out of the dormitories and onto the landing. No doubt the bishop was reading those two girls their vows. Is that an eye? I had the run of the abbey to myself for some time, it seemed. Was that an eye? Did you see that? I stopped in front of the library door, resisting the tug of the line for just a moment. Eustace was still missing. I held my hand out to the door handle, then thought better of it. What are we doing? 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 If Eustace was anywhere, it was the library. I hadn't been able to find her before, but where else would she be? Organizing her books or God knows what else. Why are we red? Why did we see an eye? I had the whole abbey to myself, minus the library and minus the chapel. I was by myself. Is she going manic? I suppose I must believe what people say about Lynbarrow's wine, mustn't I? I wouldn't be able to tell you any of this without it. I was yanked away from the library door and down the second floor hallway. Where to go? What to do? I could do anything. I could go anywhere. I wanted to go outside. I wanted to touch a tree. I wandered toward the spot where I had seen the ghastly figure of the flaming sword. I could take the stairs down to the outer courtyard from there, but there was a nasty smell coming from beyond the big door. Yuck, foul. And I didn't particularly fancy getting into a fight with the door the way Flora had. I retreated back towards the staircase near the dorms and practically flew down them. I was being pulled by a thread, guided so firmly. I could do whatever I wanted, and I wanted to go outside. Yeah. Nobody could see me. If only they could have. I suddenly felt quite warm despite the cool winter's air. It would snow soon. Everyone kept reminding me of that. This would be my last chance to enjoy the grass for a long time, to feel the ground. Even the stone floors and walls of the abbey might be too cold to feel comfortably soon, I realized. As I jogged through the courtyard, I did something unthinkable. I have no excuse. I paused for a moment and removed all my clothes save for my hood and cap. What are you doing? I hastily balled them into a pile. I did not care where I was. I just needed to be rid of them for a moment in this small window of freedom I had. For just a moment, the hook inside of me relaxed. The flagstone felt so welcoming on my feet, and then my hands and my knees as I fell to the floor. My stomach and my back, the touch of stone felt so welcoming. What is going on? I scarcely cared where I was. I was surrounded by stone enveloped in bricks, some of it smooth and some of it rough, and all of it inviting. I crawled and rolled and laughed and felt blissful. Then my innards tightened again. I felt the hook pull taut. I was off again through the... Did you put your clothes back on? So I was drawn outside. I felt gravel under my feet. Then the gravel gave way to grass. The incessant pull continued. I broke into a sprint lest it rip my guts out. I leapt into the tall greenery like water and laughed. I rolled onto my back and gazed into the sky where the clouds are darkening. I stayed like that for a moment, giddy and dizzy and full of thrills. The yanking sensation had subsided, although I still could not see what had been dragging me out here. Here was where it had wanted me to be, though clearly a single raindrop fell onto my forehead and I began to laugh. This was perfect. This was total bliss. I brought myself to my feet, the tall grass brushing against my thighs. I held my hands aloft. Give me more, I begged the heavens. Give me more! I had begun to rain. I could feel each drop as it pelted my skin and could trace each one's path as it traveled down my body. The rain grew faster, and yet I could still account for each raindrop. I could follow each tiny ball of water as it ran from my face to my legs, from the tip of my fingers down my arms before it rolled off my breast until there wasn't a single dry patch of skin. There was thunder in the distance. Hedwig! I thought I heard my name underneath the rolling rumble. Hedwig? I finally turned my head downward from the sky to see. Who's this? Having fun, are we? The earth was ever so slightly damp. I could feel myself sinking into the dirt. A shadowy figure appeared at me from above. Look at the state of you. Who are you? I can't see you. It's me. I'm scared half to death. Come on, get up. The hook was gone. So was the doppelganger who had been pulling on it. Oh, was that Eustace looking at Hedwig, I think? I needed Eustace's help to rise to my feet. Felt very cold and very damp and utterly mortified. Well then, I don't suppose I need to tell you just how much more leverage I have against you now, hey? I burst into tears. You can't tell anyone about this. Relax. I was only joking. I suppose our relationship isn't built for joking these days, is it? Sorry. Eustace was walking me back toward the Abbey slowly. I suddenly felt very aware of my nakedness. Not in the freeing way that I had minutes before, but in a dreadful, vulnerable sense. I tried to make a break for it and sprint back to the Abbey to retrieve my pile of clothes, but Eustace kept a firm hold of my wrist. Calmly. And try not to cry. The last thing we want is for everyone to come running, yeah? Or perhaps you wouldn't mind. Huh? That was Hedwig question mark. What are these mental breakdowns she keeps having? How did you find me? I finished what I was doing in the library and was on my way back to the chapel to get an earful from the superior, and I saw a bundle of clothes in the corner and thought, well, nothing good, I'll say that much. Ugh, do you smell that, by the way? We're close to the wall beneath the great wooden doors. Yes, I can. Awful, isn't it? Horrible. Never mind that, though. Let's get you dressed first. I was doing my best to cover myself up with one free arm, but it wasn't working very well. We crossed over the grass back onto the gravel path. Do you enjoy how that feels beneath your feet? Oh, there's like some fucking like depravity speaking to her right now. I guess this is the censorship mode, by the way. Leave me alone! What is the matter with you? Quiet down. I was distraught, but it was nothing compared to what I was about to feel. We turned the corner into the cloister, where the gravel path met the flagstone flooring. My robes were still there in a heap. There was somebody else there, too. The very last person I would have wanted to see me in this state. Hello, Sister Eustace. This is rather interesting. I instinctively tried to flee, but Eustace wouldn't let go of my arm. This isn't the time, Angela. I think Hedwig might need to see Moira. Moira returned from attending to her not long ago. Hedwig was perfectly fine, according to her, so I think you might be in quite a predicament. Eustace finally let go of my hand. Perhaps she was aware of how it made things look. I saw Hedwig's clothes discarded on the floor and was worried for her safety. Luckily, I think she might have just been having a bit of fun. In the rain? Alone? I know it sounds absurd. It sounds deranged! She shouted so loud that it scared me. It sounds impossible. Forgive me, Sister Eustace, but it sounds like the hurried tale of a woman who knows she has been caught. She said this last word with a disturbing sense of relish, as if she had rolled it around in her mouth to savor the taste before letting it go. What is your angle, Angela? Underneath my embarrassment, I could feel rage building. What had happened to Angela remaining beneath Eustace's notice? It is the truth. Huh. You know, this reminds me of several other truths you have told me I simply have to believe. Truths so strange that they simply must be true. You encounter things so bizarre that they must be true quite often, don't you, Sister Eustace? And so many of them seem to revolve around states of undress and the honor of the women around you. One could say that it beggars belief. There's no reason to bring anything like that into this. What is this? Hedwig, is there anything I should tell the Superior? I suddenly realized just how difficult it would be to communicate exactly what I needed from Angela. Whatever she had suggested to me about availability had been overrun by something else. Panic set in alongside embarrassment. How could I convince Angela that this had all been part of my investigation? It hadn't, of course, but that was the idea I needed to replace. Whatever anger or concern had taken over her senses. Mr. Angela, Eustace is telling the truth. I could scarcely bring myself to hold my head up straight, much less look Angela in the eyes. But I did my utmost to maintain eye contact. Think of our pact, I attempted to say to her silently. She stared back at me, her eyes narrowed and piercing. Think of our pact. I knew what she might say in response. Is this not evident enough? She opened her mouth, and I was terrified that she was about to announce that she had won the argument I'd been imagining in my head. I would plead you not to tell the Superior. What Eustace says is true. I experienced a spell of madness. You see, I'd never felt the rain before. Not anywhere but on my hands and face, I suppose. I was overcome with a childish desire to play. Snow is coming soon. It's silly, but I wondered how much longer the chance to do something like this would be available. She used the word available there very purposefully, I think. I just finished up working in the library. I came downstairs, I saw a pile of clothes, and I ran outside to find Hedwig in a state of delirium. That is all. That is the truth. What a funny story. Hilarious. But one of those kinds of stories that's only funny to the people who were there. I imagine it could be amusing to the others, but I trust your judgment. For now, at least. She eyed me up and down, and I was too exhausted to cover my shame. Get dressed then, Hedwig. I hope this is your one and only bout with this delirium. You know, Eustace is actually, like, trying to protect Hedwig here. I have to point that out, you know? It would be a shame if you froze to death when it snows. I nodded and she turned to leave. Eustace stood and watched me get dressed. She stood blocking the view to and from the chapel across the cloister, which I somewhat appreciated. She muttered quietly as I fixed my robe. Wouldn't want anyone else seeing. Or perhaps you would. What? What is this going on inside of you, Hedwig? Could be a thrill, I suppose. Thoroughly humiliated, I indicated to Eustace that I was ready to move. I'm learning so many interesting things about you. There's nothing to have learned from this. I was ill, and I was just ill, that's all. I find it hard to believe that this was a completely random whim of yours. What did Angela mean, by the way, about you and honor and so on? I think perhaps we have each been given an opportunity to not learn anything about each other. I think that is fair, don't you? Very well, Hedwig. She was smiling, but I could sense the tension behind her eyes. We began to walk back toward the staircase to the upper hall. You know, Hedwig, I find this side of you far more interesting than your busybody tendency. If this is all some bizarre way of filling that hole, you have my full support. And what does support for momentary bouts of madness look like? I'm good at keeping secrets. I'm keeping more than one of yours right now. We stopped at the top of the stairs. I turned to face her, feeling wary. I could not believe that she was still attempting to threaten me in this manner. Moments ago, I thought we had reached some kind of stalemate. I wish you wouldn't be so cruel, Eustace. Cruel? I disagree. Firm. I do what I must. You have made your point several times over. You won. I've not continued what you asked me to cease. That's excellent. I'll take every opportunity to keep it that way until I am satisfied. We could be friends in the meantime. After all, if you're not doing what I asked you not to do, what do you have to fear? Smile and allow me my paranoid indulgences. We'll laugh about all this years down the road. I hope so. Eustace bade me farewell with a curt nod and empty smile and turned to head back down the staircase. I glanced at the library door. What's up with the smell outside the hall door, by the way? Like, Eustace smelled it too. What is going on out there? I had half a mind to dash inside and see whatever it was she had been so busy with before coming to find me in the field, but I thought better of it. I staggered back to my room. I felt as if I had just run in circles for hours. My breath was shallow and ragged, and I was dripping with sweat. I entered my room and made for my bed. I did need that rest Moira had recommended, after all. With trepidation, I removed my clothing once more. I was alone again, but I was still filled with an overwhelming sense of shame and dread as my skin was exposed to the air. That strange, driving sensation. The hook was back. My doppelganger's pull was weak as she attempted to drag me to the open window or back into the hall through the door. Does Hedwig have an exhibition fetish? Hedwig? I could resist it, but it was there. No matter how little effort it took to suppress, I could feel that it was there. I can still feel it in truth. Another reason I belong in here. As I climbed into bed, I began to weep. Some threshold had been crossed. It was as if I had discovered I was afflicted with some permanent disease. I begged God to free me from the line I was stuck on, but the feeling would not leave. I knew that no matter which direction my speared loins would be pulled, the final destination would be hell. My head hit the pillow and I jerked upright. I had avoided colliding with the dull knife inside, but the whole thing was still damp. I let out a wail and flipped it over angrily as I buried my face in the dry side and set about wetting it in kind with my tears. When sleep came, I wished it would take me permanently. Jeez! This is all going, rather unpleasantly for her. The horrors only continue for Hedwig. What's wrong? Do you find these details hard to believe? Well, I stand by it all. That is what happened. I was being cajoled, perhaps even haunted by a lascivious doppelganger. Listen, this is how I must tell the story. This isn't an embellishment or a fantasy. This is simply how I see it. Anyway, sleep was not so merciful. When I awoke, I had a headache, a fitting punishment for the desire to throw away God's gift. I dragged myself to my feet and looked out of the window. The sun had just set from the looks of things. I had likely missed supper, although I didn't much mind. I had very little hunger, and I'm sure that my presence would have made Bridget and Violet's first meal at the Abbey a disaster. I sighed and set about getting dressed once again. I still had to meet with Angela, a prospect that did not thrill me in the slightest after our earlier encounter. I winced as my frock draped over me, and Margaret and Catherine had invited me to speak to them as well. I had so many appointments to keep and not a shred of the will necessary to follow through. I adjusted my hood and exhaled deeply. I was dressed and as ready as I ever would be to meet my unlikely investigation partner. I stepped out into the dorm hall. A fire had been lit, but there was nobody lingering here. I could hear voices coming from the landing, however. I walked out into the hallway and saw a gaggle of sisters standing in front of the Misericorde door. I think it is only fair that we let our newest sisters in tonight. It would be such a fitting end to their first day here. I'm not so sure. Is it really appropriate? Why wouldn't it be? I'm the same age as Flora, and she says she's been in here before. I would certainly enjoy it. Me too. It's only fair that I get in too. What do you mean, only fair? Because I haven't been in ages. You've missed out once, which is how it usually works anyway. Right, so it's my turn to go in then. Glad we agree. Eustace sighed. So that's Bridget, Violet, Flora, myself, Eustace, Darcy. Come to think of it, can we not add one more tonight? If half are allowed inside at any time, our ranks have grown enough to accept another inside. Ah, Hedwig, would you like to join us? I'll give my seat up for somebody who didn't get a chance last time. Adela looked disappointed but didn't say anything. As I began to descend the stairs, Margaret and Catherine emerged from below. Margaret, Catherine, we have one open space in the Misericorde tonight. We have prior engagements, alas. That's right. Will join us later, Hedwig? Yes. I continued down the stairs to escape any further logistical conversations. I could hear Adela complaining out loud that they might have to invite Angela at the rate things were going. I wanted to shout it back up the stairs to share the good news that she, too, would be busy tonight, but I kept it to myself. Perhaps Moira or Marta or Charity would join. I didn't much care. As I walked towards the meeting spot Angela had proposed, I remembered what she had told me about the others and shivered. I might have been resigned to allowing myself to be fawned over, but I did not have to appreciate it. The idea of spending a drunken night of revelry with women who had bets placed on my chastity filled me with an indescribably dark feeling. I could feel the hook and line drawing taut. Oh, she wants it. I could see Angela in the shadows ahead. She was wearing a large traveling cloak over her robes, an idea I became increasingly jealous of as the night grew colder. Very prompt. I am surprised. Did you retrieve the book? Of course I did. Come, we can talk in the garden. That's a different sprite for her. She's not carrying her usual book. She did not give me time to respond. I followed her down the path towards the hedgerows. You were absent from supper. I take it you were convalescing after your little escapade, if you must call it that. I am rather cross with you, I'll have you know. You might well have blown our entire plan to smithereens. Calm yourself. I was simply going to express that you were lucky to miss supper. I don't think there was a single moment of silence. Those new oblates and Flora dominated the entire meal with their babbling. Oh, I couldn't help but giggle. That does sound excruciating. You don't know the half of it. I might have to avoid the refectory altogether if their behavior isn't curtailed. Don't you mean rectory? No, it should be called the refectory, but it was built to be a rectory. The shorter name stuck, I suppose. No doubt the sisters of this abbey have always been slightly dull. I'm surprised you hadn't noticed the error. I just went along with what I heard. So much of my boundless knowledge of abbey building plans. I do often miss having private meals. He once took everything privately. I sometimes find myself feeling envious. Perhaps I should become an anchoress. She stopped and turned to face me now that we were deep between the hedges. Wouldn't that be amusing? I suppose it would be? I was bewildered. I could scarcely remember a conversation with Angela that hadn't felt like a duel, but she was attempting, at the very least, to be friendly. It did not suit her. I was concerned. You know, of all the things I was thinking about this volume, I was not expecting to like Angela more. She just seemed like a total bitch in the first game. But she's actually like a pretty good character here. So, the book. I retrieved it with ease while you were all away. Can I have it back then? I'm eager to get back to work. That would be a poor idea, I think. We discussed how much of a risk it would be for you to continue so openly. What if Eustace saw it in your room? We have no locks. She wouldn't even need to be particularly paranoid. She might just happen upon it if she were to enter your bedroom for any reason. I know I told you to stick close to her, but I did not expect you to whore yourself out for the cause quite so quickly! Wow! That is not what happened, and it shan't be happening! Really now? I know it sounds ludicrous, but Eustace's story earlier, that really was what happened. Tell me all then, in exacting detail. There isn't much to tell. Then you'll be finished with the story quickly and we can move on. I was ill, as you saw in the chapel. Imbalanced humor, as Moira said. She told me to rest, and I tried to. I really did. I was full of some strange energy and could not fall asleep. So I went for a walk around the abbey and felt compelled by a strange sensation to sneak about. And the rest, well, you saw. I feel humiliated, Sister Angela. I'd rather not be lit. Ah! I need an adult! I tripped over my words as Angela opened her cloak to reveal her naked body underneath. I was so shocked that I could have fallen over, but my hook and line draw tight and kept me upright. You have a sickness, Hedwig. I see it in your eyes. Sister Angela! Cover yourself! You are in the grip of some devilish hysteria. Where it came from, I cannot tell you, but I can plainly see how thoroughly it controls you. No! I know your kind. You would throw off all your clothes and responsibilities and run into the woods if you had the opportunity. You would seek to join the Celts or some witches in the woods and live feral. You dutifully shunned sin and pleasure for 20-odd years, and the devil had a remarkably easy time getting his claws in you as soon as you stepped outside of your cell. It is not your fault. In fact, I pity you. I have struggled with similar proclivities. The Superior couldn't have known, but she made a grave mistake choosing you for this work. She treated you like some wretched invalid and pulled you off the street to be her sin eater. But Lynn Barrow is an ocean of sin, and your kind is all too eager to plunge into the depths. You never had a chance. I have only just kept my head above water while I have lived here, managing the same affliction you let get the better of you today. Am I correct, Hedwig? No! Yes, I am. I know I am because you haven't looked away from me. She closed her cloak. What the fuck? What are you feeling right now, Hedwig? Are you relieved that you can no longer see my naked flesh? Or are you hungry? Have I relieved you by hiding myself, or do you feel as if I've taken your plate away from you mid-meal? I had nothing to say. I was trembling, terrified, and sick. I am right. I see it in your eyes. You look like a starving dog. But a dog can be trained. Wait, this is really hot. Oh my fucking god. Oh my fucking god. Holy shit. Claire, I think you've been blessed with divine vision. I think Hermes hit you with the volleyball. Are you committed to finding the truth, Hedwig? Can I count on you to conduct your half of our investigative work? Will you do whatever it takes? Yes. You have sinned and will sin again in the course of your investigation. Lying, stealing, and God knows what else. And you have in turn driven me to sin as well. I have stolen for you. I'm sorry, Angela. I do not apologize. We must accept these sins if we are to find the truth in this cesspool. For Catherine's sake, I would do anything. She meant the world to me once, before she was taken by madness. Oh, they were fucking. I mean, honestly, I'm pretty sure Catherine was just doming the entire abbey. I would spend the rest of my life on my knees, repenting for every sin I committed on the path to finding justice for her. Would you? Yes. I don't believe you. Yes! Again! Yes! Angela looked me up and down with calculating disdain. Good. Then kneel. The sword? No, the dagger or something. Oh my fucking god. Holy shit. This is peak lesbian art right here. I fell to one knee, overwhelmed but with strange emotion. I bowed my head to her. I felt a cold touch on my shoulder and saw a flash of light. Angela held her dagger against my collarbone for a moment, then moved it to the opposite side of my head. Holy shit, chat room. Then I take you as my knight, Sister Hedwig. Holy shit! We will uncover the truth. If we have to burn Lynn Barrow to the ground to find it, then so be it. I will prostrate myself before God and beg for forgiveness for the rest of my life, and you may pray beside me. I will guide you out of the darkness as I seek my own salvation, because as pitiable and wretched as I once found you, I see the same illness in your eyes that once gripped me. I rose to my feet, shaking. I just want to be free of all this madness. Then follow me. Oh, they're gonna fuck. Oh. Oh. We traipsed back through the garden towards the cloister. I kept sneaking glances at Angela's heavy cloak. Stop, Hedwig! Every now and then, the manner of her steps would shift the fabric and reveal the shape of her body underneath just for a moment. My god, I am quite drunk. To be frank, I don't even know if this is how I felt in the moment, but it is an experience I have recounted to myself many times in my head in moments of weakness. Oh, don't sound so surprised. I have momentary lapses of judgment even now. To tell you the truth, well, I am back in this cell for the purpose of my own safety, aren't I? My own well-being, a place to account for my many sins and repent. I pray every day and accept my due gladly. But every now and then I think, well, what's one more little sin? Okay. Okay, Hedwig. I will be here for a very long time. As long as I am improving at a rate greater than I'm adding things to repent for onto the pile. She's doing fucking horny calculus. Holy shit. She's got the horny abacus in there. As much as I loathed to admit it at the time, Angela was correct about me. I had been neck deep in evil since I joined the congregation, and if there was any hope of finding the truth, I would need to navigate these waters intentionally. My time in my cell, I thought, had fashioned enough armor for me to survive anything, but my raw scriptural knowledge was simply overwhelmed by the outside world. Pure white snow trampled by the footfalls of fallen women. I don't mean to bore you too greatly, but my mind did drift to Aquinas. I was having second thoughts about what I had just agreed to while swept up in Angela's compelling theatrics. As shaky as my faith had become, I still believed in right and wrong. But I did calm myself thinking about the relative nature of goodness. Not in the sense that goodness is relative to the world it exists in, but in the sense that it is relative to the creature that exercises it. I wanted to do good things. I was an imperfect being, and striving for beatitude was in my nature. Sin is inexcusable, but it is forgivable. I could repent for sins, and if my sins resulted in a truly good work, justice for Catherine, and the defeat of the evil that killed her, I reasoned that I was justified. Oh, she's fucked. She's fucked! I could and would repent and account for my choices. And I believed that I was making the best possible choices available to me, even if I was being forced to draw from a quiver full of sins. The evil that had killed Catherine, I could not think about it for too long. Every day I was surrounded by women who might have killed her, or might know something about who killed her. As Angela's cloak revealed her swaying hips in front of me once more, I became embarrassingly distracted. I felt the hook tug at me. Eustace had been mocking me when she suggested this by the stream, but perhaps I truly had been possessed. I thought about Flora's demonic circle. Had its evil touched me? Is that why I felt so compelled by perverse thoughts? Angela turned at the steps to the refectory and walked up to the door. In here. In the refectory? Where else would you suggest? I don't know. One of our rooms? Or the cellars? You know as well as I do how much traffic passes through the cellar, and the dormitory seemed like a poor place to conduct an investigation into our fellow sisters. I suppose you're right. We entered the building. It was pitch dark at first, save for a beam of moonlight illuminating the long wooden table. Angela searched around the corners of the room for a candle. Eventually, she found one in a cabinet against the wall. She lit it and placed it atop the table and invited me to sit down. Now then. She reached under the table and produced my workbook. You left that in here while we spoke? I kept a close eye on the door while I waited for you. But we went to the garden. And the book is still here. Can we move on? Of course. She splayed the book out on the table and flicked through the maps I had already completed. You had a somewhat admirable idea before Eustace found you out. There is an important element you have overlooked, however. What is that? You have been asking the others about the morning Catherine's body was found. Well, I am sure there might be some contradictions to be discovered there. You have neglected to ask people about the night prior. Oh. I felt impossibly stupid. Yes. Oh. Damn, her tits are just out. She reached out to flip the pages once more. I found myself searching for a glimpse of her breast in the candlelight. Eyes up, pervert! You have assumed that she was found in the morning immediately after her death. She might have died at any point during the night. That's a much more difficult question to pose to people, though. I imagine a murderer with any sense would immediately balk if I asked where they were that night. Yes, and of course everyone, involved or not, would have an easy answer they could send you away with. I was asleep. It would be a lie, of course, but a fairly unassailable one without proof to the contrary. I leaned on the table and held my head in my hands. Had all my work thus far really been useless? I hadn't had a chance to compare the stories I had received to each other before Eustace took the book. Perhaps there's still a chance I've captured something important. Not that I can see. I groaned. Margaret and Catherine proposed a meeting later. I already have Margaret's story, but Catherine said she was moved by the idea of chronicling Catherine II's last moments. The corners of Angela's mouth flickered. How fortuitous. No doubt those two will have practiced their stories together, regardless of whether or not they're involved. I realized something. Come to think of it, I already know Catherine's story. Catherine the First, I mean. Angela raised an eyebrow. I felt terrible exposing Catherine's secret, but this felt necessary. Catherine had a visitor the night Catherine II was killed. It was James. Come now. She was so reticent to tell me this that I can scarcely believe it was a lie. In fact, when I visited James in the hospitalum, he told me the story first and Catherine admitted it after some convincing. But Darcy found his bloody cloak. She did, didn't she? When I reminded Catherine of that, she insisted that she was with James that whole night and that he did not bring his traveling cloak with him. It was left in his cart, according to him. So Darcy lied. What reason would she have to do that? I have no idea. She doesn't seem the type. She hardly seems able. But you should follow up on this with her. I suddenly remembered something Darcy had said many days ago now. There is another element of Darcy's story that isn't consistent, come to think of it. She took me to visit the sheep not too long ago, and we talked about all of this. She mentioned that she had been tending to the sheep the morning Catherine's body was found, and that she found the bloody cloak on her way back to the Abbey. But she also mentioned seeing and smelling smoke, and I've just realized. I reached for the book and flipped through my completed notes. Only Charity and Adela have mentioned anything about smoke so far. That is rather odd. I remember smelling smoke. I did not think much of it in the moment. A mishap in the kitchen, I presumed. But if Darcy had not started cooking yet, she was returning from the hills. So if she noticed it and felt it was outside of the ordinary, that is something. Angela tilted back in her chair and let out a horrible squawking laugh. Ha! James may be spared the gallows because he fell in with that fucking whore. Life is full of mysteries. She seemed rather upset. Well, what is it that you dislike about Catherine so much? Angela narrowed her eyes and folded her arms across her chest under her cloak. Sister Catherine believes in nothing but her own pleasure. She is a wastrel and a betrayer. I have no time for her anymore. Anymore. I'm drinking some water, hang on. Understood. Sister Catherine has been given many chances over the course of her career at this abbey to turn her life around, and she insists on taking every opportunity she can to indulge herself. She has the same beast inside of her as you, only fattened up without shame. It will be very easy for you to get what you need from her. She spoke with such force that the candle flickered. We sat in silence for a moment while Angela composed herself. Finally, she spoke again. This works in our favor, however. She is an easy mark. Have your meeting with Margaret and Catherine tonight. Tomorrow, speak to Darcy, and then come and find me. I will talk to the superior and arrange for us to go and talk to James. What else do we need from James? Now that we are working together, I would like to ask him some questions of my own. And we should ask him if he remembers smoke. I nodded. Speaking to Darcy might be difficult. She and Eustace are so close. Find her in the kitchens before breakfast or something then. Catch her in the hallway. Apply yourself. Angela spun the book back around to face her, and she flipped through the pages once more. The mentions of smoke must matter, although how, I do not know. We must close this gap and find out exactly who does and doesn't remember it. She looked gravely concerned. Well, we have a plan of action. Can I trust you to enact your part? My part. What was she doing again exactly? Yes, of course. Good. Tell me all about what you find, and I will reward you when it is done. Reward her? Reward her, chat room. Reward her! She snapped the book shut to punctuate the conversation before I could ask what she meant. Can I have that back? I think this book has likely outlived its usefulness. It is more of a liability than a boon now that we have determined a key element in these stories. I shall hand it off to the superior to dispose. But... dang, I missed the scene. Oh, it was a scene. Oh yeah, it was the scene. The scene. God, can I still put this on YouTube? Like, I do have censorship on, but like, fuck, man. Angela raised a hand and I stopped. Thank you. Good night, Hedwig. You may leave first. We should not be seen walking back to the dorms together. I nodded and made for the door. And Hedwig? Yes? Do whatever you can. Of course. Literally, yes, you can. Do other streamers put VODs of this game on YouTube, I wonder? Or is it just me being an absolute fucking weirdo? The further I got from the refectory, the tighter the hook inside tugged at me. Part of me wanted to sprint back to her and beg her to explain herself, but I felt more compelled to do the right thing and attend my meeting with Margaret and Catherine. You mean you wanted to sprint back to her and beg her to fuck you, I think. As demanding as my twin was, I could tell she was as curious as I was about this reward. As I passed the Misericorde, I could hear uproarious laughter and loud voices muffled through the doorway. All of them sounded young and exuberant. Perhaps Angela had been right about how much the newcomers talked. I sighed and continued onward to the dorms. I wasn't quite sure what to expect when I knocked on Margaret's door. Today had been a whirlwind of activity, and I hoped that I wasn't about to collapse again in front of these two. I could hear a musical instrument being plucked. I knocked again. Do come in. Ah! Stop! Stop this immediately! It doesn't stop! I opened the door and it was choked as I entered. What were the odds? Oh! I shut my eyes as fast as I could. Curiosity begged me to open them again. But even after Angela's little stunt, I was not used to seeing naked flesh unannounced. I should leave. Nonsense. I invited you in. Well, yes, but... Would you mind looking at me while we speak? I can't take this! Bear no mind, Hedwig. This is just something she does. Did you hear that? Something I do. As if I'm the only girl in the whole wide world who appreciates a breeze every now and then. Margaret continued blithely, never taking her eyes off of her mischievous friend. Oh yeah, of course! We're glad you're here, Hedwig. Catherine just enjoys making people uncomfortable. It's a game she likes to play. Of course it is! And I'm rather good at it. Well, in that case, consider the game won. Huzzah! Margaret finally turned toward me. I fancied having a little chat with you. That we did! Margaret explained your plan to fill in Catherine II's lost work, as it were. Very noble. I'd love to do my part. Yes, you said that before. Margaret gestured to her desk chair, which I took gladly. You actually told me your story earlier, didn't you? Did I? Did I? I must have forgotten. I'm sure I must have left a few things out. It wouldn't hurt for me to go over it again, surely. I glanced back and forth between Margaret and Catherine. What were they doing? If either of them had any involvement in Catherine's death, surely they realized how suspicious this was. I suppose not, but... Oh, very well. I did tell you my story and I told it true, but you can't go and write all that down in ink, can you? How embarrassing it would be! And I was thinking, and Margaret agrees, that it would make for a better story if some of the more sordid details were replaced with something more pleasant. Just so you know, this is all Catherine's idea. You helped? Very well, but what would you have me replace it with? You were in rather close proximity to someone of great interest to the whole affair. Yes, that's just the thing, isn't it? I can't bear thinking about what people years from me would think of me if they read all that. I would look like a strumpet at best, and once they lopped the poor boy's head off, I fear they might start concocting tales of my involvement. They? My terrible hangers-on, Hedwig! You might think me petty, but I have a long list of enemies who would stop at nothing to dig up dirt on me and spread it all around. Sticking me in this convent wasn't enough for some of them. Did you know that for the first year or two I was here, I was sent reams of hateful letters? Someone even tried to break in and attack me. No! It's true. It was a bit funny. It was altogether harrowing. It was a bit funny. My life was in grave danger. They threw pain at you. A knife was next, I'm sure of it. Thank God for Catherine II. Rest in peace. What did she do? Oh, this was around the time she was trying to turn us into some sort of militia. I thought it was an utterly pointless, manly exercise, but when she saw that man chasing me with a basket of temperas, she leapt into action. Catherine II had been sweeping at the time. All I told that wretched artist was that I didn't want his awful portrait. She dispatched the fellow with 2, maybe 3 strikes, knocked him out cold, and then sent him back down the mountain after he came to. He had ridden up with a mail carrier, but she made him walk home. My knight in shining armor. Anyway, Catherine has enemies. People who are on the lookout for any false move of hers. Whatever for? To make me miserable? Who knows? I apparently haven't suffered enough for their satisfaction. These are your political enemies you've mentioned. I thought I might have alluded to this before. Yes, that is them. So surely you can understand my predicament. Would you please be a dear and write something else about me in those chronicles of yours? I thought for a moment. A lie was a lie, but I was beyond being able to claim that I wasn't a liar. I certainly didn't want any harm to befall Catherine, as strange and irritating as she often was. And while it would leave my chronicles somewhat incomplete, I reasoned that Catherine had already given me her story about the morning the murder was discovered. I sighed deeply. I could agree to this. If anything, I felt slightly relieved. Angela had been rather dramatic when she had described what the others desired of me, but favors like this I could handle. Let's say that I agreed to do this. What would you have me write instead? I haven't the foggiest. You're the chronicler, not me. Fair enough. I decided I might try to press my luck ever so slightly. What can you give me in return? Catherine's eyes went wide and Margaret chuckled. Ooh, she's learning. She's rather rude. One shouldn't do good things expecting a reward. At any rate, I thought this, she waved one arm around her nude form, might be a reward and not... Nonetheless, Hedwig, I suppose you are entitled to greater compensation. She didn't get mesothelioma. I don't know. I don't think she is. Margaret, would you leave us? Oh! Margaret snorted. Very well. I wouldn't want to get in the way of your negotiations. You're my angel, Margaret. Congratulations. Margaret left her room. Catherine patted the spot on the bed where her friend had been sitting. Come a little closer, darling. The hook obliged quickly, dragging me to Catherine's side. Jesus loves me, this I know, 'cause the Bible told me so. Closer still. There's hardly room. She tugged at my leg with surprising strength and dragged it onto the bed. Straddle me, dear. Pretend I'm a... I was going to say horse, but given the context, I would rather you didn't pretend anything of the sort, actually. My heart was pounding. I will skip if they just start actively fucking. I cannot read that out loud. Like, it's not even a YouTube thing anymore. I am not capable. Gingerly, I obliged. I clambered onto the bed properly and sat atop Catherine's hips. I attempted to tuck my frock between my legs to keep us somewhat separated, but as soon as I was settled, Catherine idly tugged at the fabric, pulling it free from underneath my weight and ensuring our skin was touching. She reached for my wrist and held them firmly. Now then, ask nicely. I'm sorry? Go on. I simply can't give you what you want unless you tell me. Oh, spit it out! You were very confident a moment ago. You know, when I first saw you, I was hardly interested. Not really my sort, I told myself. But there's something undeniably arresting about you, dear sweet Hedwig. Make yourself available. I wasn't quite sure what was coming, but I was whizzing through calculations in my head. Perhaps it'd be worth it. Catherine's thumbs brushed over the creases where my legs met my hips, and I held my breath. What is your sort? Men. There's just no substitute. That being said, since winding up here, I've learned that I can never say no to a pretty girl asking nicely. So, ask away. My legs were fidgeting and my muscles were tensing. I was being pulled straight down, the hook between my legs yanking me so violently I felt like I might be torn open. I stumbled forward, steadying myself on Catherine's bosom. Oh. My breath was ragged. My face must have been bright red. I probably looked utterly crazed. I can't take much more of this chat. I'm warning you right now. The light caught her glistening eyes. Oh. Okay, alright, sex over. Sorry, ma'am, I can't have gay sex with you. I just got jump scared. Goodbye! I leaned back and swung my leg back up and over Catherine. I staggered over to the chair I'd been sitting in previously and fell into it. Catherine sat up on the bed. Are you feeling well? I've never felt better. Just too much, too fast, I'm afraid. You are an odd one. I thought this is what you wanted. Ever since you played so bafflingly coy after I caught you in the window. I gazed across the room at her. She was beautiful. I could see why she seemingly bewitched so many men. If I were a man, and had I not heard the dreadful stories about her, I would not be opposed to marrying her. That is the gayest shit I've ever heard, Hedwig. She was 10 or so years my senior, I guessed. My eyes lost focus, and I imagined what life would be like if I were such a man. Marriage. Where would we live? That mansion in the village still? Would we have children? I couldn't even begin to imagine bearing a child, much less raising one. All I could think about was seeing Catherine like this in her bed, and in the hall, and in the kitchen, and in the garden. Hedwig! Jesus Christ! Ahem. Hedwig. I appreciate that this might be some sort of revelatory moment for you, but I have company at night more often than not. Could you be a dear and have your deep thoughts, I don't know, in your room? I hope I did not offend you. Offend me? No, I don't think so. Really? Really? I just don't know what to do, and it all feels so sinful. A few of the others had that problem at first. You get used to it. You'll find ways to justify it to yourself. Or so I am told. It was never much of an issue for me, I must confess. So you and Margaret? Obviously. Who else? Catherine raised an eyebrow. Nosy. Adela. Eustace can be fun when she's not in one of her moods. Well, that answers my earlier question. Darcy's attached at the hip to Eustace, but occasionally she'll get a little wild. Moira, naturally. Naturally? And nobody is upset about all this? Upset about what? Far be it from me to endorse all of this, but entertaining the thought, do people not get jealous of one another? Catherine blinked. Jealous? None of us are married to each other, Hedwig. There's no honor to besmirch. Nobody's in love. I should hope not. Perhaps you spent too much of your adult life cooped up in that cell of yours, but it's not strange. Friends of mine used to have their midwives stimulate them in times of great need. I think Hedwig is having a lot of times of great need lately. It's a good treatment for hysteria. What is? Catherine shot me a withering look. If you want to speak to a doctor, go ask Moira. I apologize. No need. Now, where was I? Ah, my conquests. Margaret, Moira, Adela, Eustace, Darcy, Charity once when we were both incredibly drunk. Holy shit! Whoa! Okay! God damn, Charity girl, go get it! Similarly soused, I think I once made a pass at the superior, but she pretended not to hear it. Oh my god! And then there was Catherine II. The blood in my veins turned to ice. Catherine II? That's right. I fell back in my chair. Tell me about her. What's to tell? She was more ravenous than me. Anyone I've had, you can assume she had as well. Tell me what it was like. What it was like? Yes! I had a pounding headache and the world scarcely felt real anymore. Angela had warned me about these women, and she had been right. But I did not care. I wanted to know about Catherine. I needed to know everything there was to know about what she looked like and how she felt. Oh my god, Jesus Christ. Are you sure you wouldn't prefer I demonstrated? She smirked at me and struck a pose. I'm still up for it. No, just tell me about her, if you insist. She was a few years my junior. She looked a bit like me, but with redder hair. Very red, actually. And she was wickedly funny. Hey, remember that, freaky girl with the bangs in front of her eyes? The meta nun that's also in the modern day story? Remember we saw her for a few seconds and how she had red hair? Chatted room. And she was wickedly funny. You heard most of this at her wake, surely. You said a lot about her, but please continue. I don't really know what else to say. She was a wonderful friend and a fierce competitor. She went a little mad, I think, towards the end. Something was weighing on her. I never really found out what it was. I wish she would have told me, but perhaps it was something beyond my expertise. It made me feel rather frivolous. What was she doing towards the end of her life? I heard that she was always up to something or other, projects and so on. Yes, she was. She sequestered herself for a long time, planning this or that in the months before she died. I'm not sure what she was up to. I wasn't privy. Very few were. I tried my best not to take offense. But right towards the end, I was let back into her schemes again, and I don't know how to put this, Hedwig, but if I had to describe her final project, well, it was you. She was very taken by you. There was the ice water in my veins again. She never stopped talking about you when we gathered in the Misericorde. Thank you very much, Catherine. Not at all. He stood up groggily. And, I usually take rejection very poorly, but I understand that you come from odd circumstances. Normally, I would say you had wasted your chance, but if you ever change your mind. Thank you, Catherine. If I ever were to change my mind, as you say, I might like to. With you. Catherine fell and beamed and fell backward on the bed. That's what I like to hear. Now get out of here. I must cure my hysteria. Well, that's what the kids are calling it these days. Who up curing their hysteria? Perhaps I could watch. I could learn a thing or two. Not on your life. Now get out! Wait, she said that out loud! Wait, she said that out loud! Holy shit. I thought evil Hedwig was only in her head. I winced as I shut the door. For a moment I panicked. I hoped that last exchange hadn't ruined our relationship utterly. I scurried into my bedroom and closed the door. And that is all. I went to bed and fell asleep. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. I don't believe you. Smoke and sigil. I awoke the next morning with a clear mind. God, I wonder when the next chapter is I'm going to get fucking assaulted like that. No less than 3 incredibly lewd scenes in one chapter. God. I mentioned how previously in my life I was also religious, and while I'm very much not anymore, there's still a few ways in which I'm kind of a prude. So it's a little difficult for me to read about some of these things out loud in front of an audience. I hope you can appreciate that. But I am soldiering on. I awoke the next morning with a clear mind. I hopped out of bed and set about getting dressed before I even realized what I was doing. It was only when I paused for a moment halfway through straightening my wimple that I fully became myself. I had a purpose today, a clear set of goals that I knew that I could accomplish. Despite my misgivings and all-around confusion surrounding Angela, I, at the very least, felt far more motivated to deliver for her than I ever had for the superior. And why might that be, Hedwig? As I left my room to join the others on the way to the chapel, I pondered why. Angela was a few steps ahead of the throng of nuns separated from the group. She glanced over her shoulder and caught my eye. I offered her a smile, but she turned away. There was the Angela I had known all this time. Still, despite our differences, Angela and I had more in common than I had considered until now. As she approached the chapel, far ahead of anyone else, it struck me that she and I both stood alone from the others. Her ahead, myself behind. Perhaps I should be further ahead with her. The two of us were the most pious and righteous women here. I brushed my robes flat across my hips. I was submerged in filthy waters, but perhaps Angela could grab hold of the line and pull me up to the surface. Oh, is that what we're calling it? Inside the chapel, I briefly considered sitting next to Angela, but thought better of it. I sidled into my usual pew. Mind if I join you? Not at all! Isn't that what you said last night, Catherine? Margaret had snuck around to the other side of the pew to box me in next to Catherine. Oh, hush. Catherine and Margaret sat down and each put an arm around me. They're claiming the girl! I want some details. Catherine keeps insisting that she doesn't tell tales about that sort of thing, which is rubbish. It is not! I am a proper lady of noble standing. It would be impolite to gossip. This is how I know she's lying. She usually tells me about what's been going on in her bed, whether I want to hear it or not. But please, you're in church. I was shrinking in my seat. I'd resigned myself to playing this part, but there were some lines I could not cross, no matter how camouflaged I became. Listen to the poor woman, Margaret. We are in a house of God. Very well. I'm going to bother you about it as soon as we step outside, though. Not acceptable. I had my orders! Loath as I was to say anything, I realized that I needed to give Margaret enough to get her off my case. Well, Catherine and we almost. She punched Catherine's shoulder. Ow! You said you did it, you cheat! I said that we did something! Besides, I would argue that what happened counts. Unbelievable! Margaret crossed her arms and made a show of sulking. Catherine leaned across me to talk to her friend. I did my best to stare ahead of and ignore them, but they continued bickering over the top of me. She really is a piece of meat! Our bits touched. I, for one, think that counts. That just sounds like you were hugging. I didn't realize you were a sexual notary. Oh, wrong voice. Honestly, Hedwig, can you believe this woman? You shouldn't let her tell tales about you. I'm not telling tales! Our bits touched, Margaret! The chapel door opened and I was spared the rest of the argument. Both Margaret and Catherine straightened up and pretended to be sitting attentively as the superior marched down the aisle to take the pulpit. I'm a bit worried that there will be a streamer or a YouTuber at some point that has to drop the game because it's too much. I wouldn't drop the game if it became too much. I would just, move quickly past the scene that is too much, But, I would definitely not just completely drop the entire game. How to describe it? It's not like I'm uncomfortable about the things that are happening. I'm just kind of uncomfortable sometimes reading the things out loud in front of people. If that makes sense. I would just skip past it a bit. The bishop followed behind her and took his usual seat towards the front. I glanced around the room. Flora had been wheeled in by Darcy today. Drat. If Darcy was meant to be responsible for Flora today, checking in with her about the smoke in her story might prove difficult. Violet and Bridget were seated far away from Flora, which surprised me. They were whispering to each other and occasionally glancing over at Flora. I hope they hadn't already had a falling out. What's going on with them? They caught my eye and quickly turned, appearing to giggle. I blushed a little, hoping my conversation with Margaret and Catherine hadn't carried too far. Whatever debasement I had to subject myself to, I couldn't let the younger set find out about what was going on. If the superior and I agreed on anything, it was this. They deserved a proper abbey, a real life of devotion. Service passed without much of note. As the sisters milled about outside, I kept an eye out for Darcy and Flora. Eventually, I could hear the wheel trundling down the aisle. I stepped out to greet them as they stepped out into the morning sun. Hello, Darcy! Hello. Nice to see you too, Hedwig. Oh, I apologize. I did not mean to be rude. Uh-huh. Flora seemed to be in a low mood. I wondered if she too had noticed that the other young women had sat away from her. I just really need to talk to Sister Darcy about something. Oh, can I wait? I'd love to chat, but I am very, 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 very busy today. I am taking care of Flora while she paints, and then I have to tend the garden and pick the last of the produce before it starts snowing. And then I have to cook luncheon, and then I have to take the sheep down the mountain for the winter, and then it will probably be time to cook dinner. Darcy really did carry the whole abbey on her back. And then I'll probably spend the evening going through the pantry just in case the builders are going to need anything. Bit worried, I must admit. I am so sorry, Darcy. That sounds overwhelming. Yes. I will be fine, though. I really must speak with you. Would you like to walk down to the village with me? You could help with the sheep. That did sound like a perfect opportunity to talk to Darcy away from curious ears, but I was also meant to visit James of Angela. And even if it did work out, that would be a lot of walking, I thought to myself selfishly. I would love to. Oh, wonderful. Oi, Flora! Want to spend the morning with us? We're going to work in the cellar. Sister Adela said you should come and give us tips. Really? I mean, yeah. I've got some stuff I can do in there. Flora relaxed a little, and Darcy smiled at me as she rolled Flora towards the cellar with Bridget and Violet in tow. Frankly, I'm shocked there haven't been any negative reviews yet about how much wilder Volume 2 is, not to jinx it. I mean, I feel like everyone that is reading through Misericorde, kind of is here for the gay nuns. You know? I think that's kind of what they're here for. I don't know. I mean, if you mean that you're surprised that nobody's like screaming about it being woke or something, people like that can't read, so that's not a problem. Everyone was filtering out into the cloister, opted to their daily tasks. I stopped cold. Daily tasks. I was meant to write my chronicles as usual. Of Eustace, no less. I sighed. I would make it as quick as I possibly could. I looked around the departing sisters and realized that Eustace had not joined us for service. Perhaps I could be alone for my writing, I thought. Lots of strange absences when it comes to Eustace, huh? She sure is disappearing here and now. As much as I disapproved of skipping service, I relished the idea of not having to sit in close proximity to Eustace while I wrote. And what would I write? As I climbed the stairs, my stomach turned over. I was certainly not going to write about my evening with Catherine, or my encounters with Angela. I hadn't written about my little excursion in the field either. What exactly could I write about? I was deep in thought when halfway up the stairs I could hear voices ahead. Hiya. Hello, Hedwig. Off to work? Indeed I am. There might be a problem. Problem? Door's locked. Eustace is working on something and she's in a mood. There's some weird shit going on. Hey, you don't think she might be, finishing one of Catherine's projects, do you think? They were talking about how Catherine went kind of mad and she had a bunch of projects. I'm kind of starting to think. Oh dear. I stepped forward to try the door. It was indeed locked. I wouldn't test her. We were trying to get in earlier to look something up and she nearly bit our heads off through the door. Oh no. I recoiled from the door, hoping I wasn't about to get another earful from Eustace. For a moment, panicked thoughts bounced around my head. What if this was the thing that set her off for good? Thankfully, nothing happened. Looks like you've got a free day. It's quite a relief to tell you the truth. I've got rather a lot of other tasks today. Oh. I realized I had no good excuses. The superior wants to check in with me about my writing, and I think she might also want me to teach the new oblates a thing or two. I was getting too good at making things up, I thought to myself. Sounds like her. Well, I'm off. I promised I'd help out in the cellars today against my better judgment. Oh no. Perhaps I wasn't getting too good at making things up. Oh, perhaps I'll join you. I have nothing to do this morning, and I wouldn't mind helping out with the sherry. Sure. I warn you, though, it still tastes awful. Everything is a process. I suppose all three of us are heading back downstairs then. Oh, yes, of course. I apologize, I was still thinking about the library. I stared at the door for a moment, wondering what on earth Eustace was locked up inside doing. I turned to leave with the others, back down the stairs towards the cellars. I realized halfway down the stairs that I might be caught in a lie if we happen to run into the superior outside of her office. What do you two think of Violet and Bridget? I'm a bit surprised she didn't know she'd be so shorn. Whichever one that was, I haven't gotten the names down yet. Violet is the tall one, and Bridget is the short one. Wait, no, other way around. Anyway, they seem a fine sort. A bit young. I doubt we'll be seeing much of them. What do you mean? Around Flora's age, aren't they? They'll stick together. Thank goodness for that, honestly. Happy to have them, of course, but I'm not expecting to make new friends. Yes, to be honest, I was hoping they'd be closer to our age as well. Well, one day they'll be our age. But we'll be that much older! True. Although I think you can stop counting years after a while. At a certain point, you're just a woman. That's a funny way of looking at things, but I think I see what you mean. What about Marta and Charity, though? It's not like we spend as much time with them. Oh, there's another threshold. You think there's just a certain point where one becomes old? Exactly. What's the threshold, then? Whichever birthday Catherine is approaching. We all chuckled. We arrived at the stairs down to the cellars. Well, this is us. Have a good day, Hedwig. You as well. I waved them off, hoping desperately that my lie about helping the new oblates wouldn't come up if they ended up working together today. The pair descended below. I exhaled, but it turned out that I couldn't stop acting just yet. Oh, hello, Darcy. Cellar's popular today. Hello, you two. She emerged from the darkness as Margaret and Moira disappeared, looking fairly cheerful. Oh, hello, Hedwig. Oh, greetings! What are you up to? Oh, just dropped Flora off down there to do some work in the cellars. Bridget and Violet are there, too. Goodness, it is busy in there today. Bit noisy, I must admit. Oh well, they are young. Idle chatter with Darcy was always pleasant, but I had an opportunity I had to seize. Flora was more or less captive in that cellar. I could speak to Darcy first and then move in on her. Darcy? Yes. Oh dear, you look rather serious. A long time ago now, you told me all about the day. You know, the day Catherine was found dead. You have an interest in the body. Not exactly. It's something else. When we spoke, you mentioned something about smoke. I remember. I did indeed. Do you remember anything else about that? Possibly. Why, though? Well, I don't know if you've heard, but I've been collecting everyone's stories about that period of time. Since Catherine couldn't write about it, obviously. I thought I might fill in the gap. Something of a tribute to her, you know? Ah, I see. And the smoke just feels like a significant detail. If nothing else, it's quite an image. I suppose it is. Well, there's not much to it. I was walking back to the Abbey and I saw lots of smoke coming from the dorm chimney. Is that significant? I mean, was it more smoke than you might have seen on any other day? From a fire being lit in the morning to keep the place warm? I could not tell you for certain, but it does stick out in my memory. If memory serves, it would be a bit early for the morning fire, since we usually light that after service, even in the colder months. But I do not know. Maybe someone was cold and wanted it lit earlier. Not as conclusive as I would have liked. But nonetheless, it's an important part of your memory of the day. Absolutely. Well, that was something at least. I'll be sure to note it then. That's good. Could you do me an immense favor? What's that? Don't tell Eustace I asked you about this. She has been a bit touchy about my asking about this subject. That makes sense. She and Catherine were very close. I don't talk to her about it either. Really? Yes. They had big plans. Grand ideas and so on. Eustace lost something when Catherine died, and I don't like how she gets when the subject comes up. I understand. I would just like for all this to be over. Sometimes I think I'd rather never hear about Catherine again. This was a dour sight of Darcy indeed. And then I feel awful for thinking that. I don't know. I think filling in those chronicles is a good idea. Maybe then the matter can be put to rest for good. Is there anything else you think I should add to the story? There was smoke, and something fell wrong, and the people who were closest to Catherine were the quietest. That's what I would write, but I'm no chronicler, and certainly not a poet. That is immensely helpful, Darcy. Thank you. Of course. I could hear the telltale sound of rain picking up. Perfect timing, eh? Is there anything else? Actually, if it isn't too much trouble, could you bring Flora back up here? Not right away. An hour, perhaps? I'd like to make the same inquiries of her. Of course. I am sure she would be happy to help. Has it ever considered paid voice acting? Me? Truth be told, that is kind of like a pet dream of mine, to do voice acting for like a game or something, you know? But, you know, I can't imagine that my voice would actually like suit any sort of character very well. I don't know. I can't imagine what kind of like character would like sound good with like my voice. I don't know. And also, I just don't know how to get involved in voice acting at all. If I like somehow were to magically fall on my face and end up somehow with like a voice acting audition and somehow by some miracle actually land it, I would be super happy. I would love it very much. I would put my all into it. But, you know, that's just not how it works. And I don't really know. But, you know, it's fine. I think I think people just are mainly impressed by how quickly I can shift between distinct voices. And I don't really think that's what voice acting requires, you know? I mean, like, any type of Persona 3 Mitsuru? But, you mean the fucking... The Ice Queen lady? I don't fucking sound like that! I'm not enough of a bitch for that! But, you know, again, I'd put everything I have into it. I don't really know if I'm cut out for it. And, you know, I would love to try, but I don't know how to try. She shuffled back down the cellar staircase. I was alone with my thoughts for a moment. Those closest to Catherine were the quietest. Like, can I maybe just, like, send these VODs to, like, a voice acting agency or something? Is that good enough? That was a far more trenchant insight than I possibly could have hoped for. And just before a meeting with the superior, no less. Angela would be very happy with me, I was certain. It would make up for my being late. Yeah, for sure, that's a demo reel. I mean, you know, I was about to say I don't think that's what a demo reel is, but truth be told, I don't really actually know what a demo reel sounds like. When I knocked on the door and spoke my name, it was Angela who beckoned me inside. Like, do you think for my demo reel, I should, like, show off my ability to make sounds like... Yeah, that's my demo reel right there. $9 million, please. Indeed, I could sense a touch of annoyance in her expression as I stepped into the room. She, the superior, and the bishop had clearly started without me. Greetings, Hedwig. Angela tells me you should have made some significant progress today. Yes! In fact, I just had a very fruitful conversation with Darcy. Good girl. Good girl. Damn. Angela has Hedwig by a fucking leash. She's got a leash on this girl. What did you find out? Well, the smoke. Has Angela filled you in on the smoke? Yes. Darcy confirmed that the smoke felt significant to her. Felt significant. In that it was probably a little early to be seeing smoke coming from that chimney. I also remember smoke. I believe I do at any rate. A small and perhaps spurious detail, but it is something. That isn't all, though. She mentioned that those who were closest to Catherine were the quietest. When I asked if there was anything else she thought bore mentioning in my chronicles, does that mean anything? Of course Catherine's closest friends would be quietest after her death. They would be the most affected, naturally. Well, I suppose that is true. No, I think Hedwig is right. That is a significant detail. Explain. Well, if we knew who those people were, could we not focus on their stories? See what elements do and do not match? You have it backwards. If there's some conspiracy those closest to Catherine are ashamed of, then they will have worked diligently to get their story straight. We can pinpoint who those people are based on how closely their stories match. And I have a sneaking suspicion what might unite them. And that would be... Angela shot me a disappointed look. Smoke, Hedwig. Or rather, the lack thereof. You believe that the conspirators left smoke out of their stories on purpose? I would not be surprised. The bishop, who had looked deep in thought this whole time, finally chimed in. Why does it sound like as soon as Catherine's body was found dead, her closest friends felt the need to burn something of hers? To burn evidence of one of Catherine's projects. And that's what the smoke was. In essence, they were deleting her browsing history as soon as they saw that she died. You know what I mean, though. The bishop, who had looked deep in thought this whole time, finally chimed in. This is a very small thing to go on. That boy's been holed up in the hospitalum for far too long. I pity him despite his assumed crimes. Surely at this point it would be the just thing to do to bring him to the diocese. He could stand trial. Perhaps the smoke story could be testimony. But I cannot see any reason to delay things any further. I want this done correctly. If there's even a shred of hope that James is innocent, I want it investigated. But why, Mabel? Why? Nobody in the diocese will think any less of Lynbarrow. What difference does it make if it was an outsider or an insider who killed poor Catherine? The truth makes a great deal of difference to me. And nobody could think any less of Lynbarrow as it is. But if I win the day doing the right thing, the hard thing, rather than the easy thing, perhaps people might think more of Lynbarrow. The bishop sighed wearily and threw his hands up. Very well, we can discuss this further later. The superior nodded, then retrieved a keyring from her desk and handed it to Angela. You know the way to the hospitalum yourselves? Of course. Off you go, then. May you find something useful. Angela and I bowed and left the office. I could hear muffled arguments beginning as soon as the door closed. It was raining rather hard by the time Angela and I made it beyond the abbey walls. The clouds were dark and dense. The whole world was gray. We traveled side by side in silence for a while, which allowed me to take in the grim majesty of the surrounding hills as I pondered what to ask the stable boy. Our last conversation had exonerated Catherine to a degree. What else could he have seen? Would he remember smoke? Did that matter? I glanced over at Angela. I wondered what she thought about all of this. What is it? Excuse me? You're staring. Spit it out. Oh, I've just been wondering what to ask James. Anything and everything we can think of. The smoke, for one thing, I suppose. Irrelevant at this point. We know what we need to know about that. We should ask him for exhaustive details about the moments leading up to his capture. Perhaps not too exhaustive. He was betting Catherine, after all. Angela sneered. How did your little rendezvous with her play out, by the way? Well, she wanted to make sure I excised that part of the story from anything I wrote in my chronicles. Goodness gracious. How sad. I might respect her more if she was proudly shameless. But she wants you to hide that fact for her? Unbelievable. Have you and her always been so adversarial? She snorted and brushed some raindrops off of her face. No. You may find this surprising, but I was on rather good terms with most everyone until Catherine's demise. Really? Don't ask me to repeat myself. When I speak to you, I speak the truth. You can listen and ask thoughtful questions, but I loathe repeating myself. I apologize. I've always had a bit of resentment about this place, but I used to enjoy the company of its people far more. Catherine and I were good friends. Likewise, I was on grand terms with the other Catherine for a while. What happened? Catherine II, I cannot stand that schema, by the way, used to study classical, and I used to study classical literature together. We would read old texts, and she was particularly interested in my language skills. I speak Italian, you see. It came in handy when she found stories or poems she fancied translating. Il Commedia? Yes, how did you know? It has been recommended to me a few times now. It is ancient, lowbrow trash. But I cherished Catherine's company and eagerly helped her translate it out of Italian into something more readable. Then she suddenly decided she was more interested in the theater, told the other Catherine that she was a great actress, and I was left alone. I've heard several similar stories now. Both Catherine II and Catherine were, and are, inconsistent, inconsiderate, and flighty. I made enemies telling everyone else at the Abbey that they deserved better than being muses for a woman with no follow-through. Somehow I doubted this was the only reason Angela was so disconnected from her fellow sisters. Nevertheless, I appreciated the candor. It did, at the very least, make some sort of sense. Even if it was a half-truth, I had a new sense of empathy for her. Everything I've heard about Catherine makes her sound difficult. She was. She used people, even if that wasn't her intent. Nothing and nobody was ever good enough for her. She was ravenous. That's why her gaze fell to you eventually, I am sure. She could never resist something out of her reach. I considered this quietly. It was hard to argue against Angela's characterization of Catherine. The behavior of the other sisters certainly fit her assessment. Is that all I had been to Catherine? Pray? It's all I was to the others. I shivered and crossed my arms over my chest, suddenly feeling self-conscious about how my robes were beginning to cling to my body in the rain. I decided to change the subject. Why do you stay at Lynbarrow? Because I have work to do. My service comes before anything else. But surely it must be miserable. You seem to be making friends, yet you are miserable just the same. No, I am not. Yes, you are, and you will be until you are relieved of your duty. We have a job to do. A calling. And if we should suffer until it is done, so be it. Perhaps I will leave should I ever feel satisfied with this mystery's conclusion. But I do not waste time thinking about that. Where would you go? Italy. You attended a convent there before. I remember you telling me. Yes. Would you return to the same convent? Perhaps. Why did you leave? I think that is enough conversation for now. I did not press her. We walked the rest of the way to the hospitalum in silence. The rain never let up. Our traveling cloaks were nearly soaked through when we arrived. As Angela unlocked the door to the dungeon, I could not help but notice that the rainwater was falling through the hole that was James's only source of light and fresh air. Calling it a window would be a disservice. I felt a pang of sympathy for the poor wretch as we descended the stairs to his cage. In an instant, he rushed forward to the bars and gripped them. His fingers were dirty and bloody. He looked far worse than he had the last time I had seen him. You! Are you here to let me out? Am I free? No, I am sorry. Wait, sorry? It's you who put me here. He leveled a bony finger at Angela. She didn't flinch. You have some nerve visiting me here. I ought to wring your neck. Angela merely arched an eyebrow. That would be ill-advised. I have been convinced of your innocence. There's work to be done before we can release you. We have some more questions for you. Hang on, I'm drinking some water. You may find this, shocking, but speaking for so many hours in a row, so many days in a row, does take a bit of a physical toll. My throat is a bit scratchy and my lips are chapped to hell. Alright. I told your superior everything, and I told you everything. We are working for you. Fuck off! No, you isn't. If you was, I'd be free by now. Let me out! Set me free! I won't tell no one. I'll run away. Far away. I'd rather take my chances in the woods than spend one more moment in this godforsaken pit. His clothes were ragged. His eyes were sunken. There was an unmistakable stench of waste permeating the room. I understood the bishop's perspective. It was hard to believe that this was all in service of exonerating poor James. Did you see or smell smoke the day you were apprehended? Eh? Smoke? What does that matter? It matters a great deal, believe it or not. So answer truthfully. Smoke. Smoke. Yeah, I smelled smoke. Figured it was the kitchen or a fireplace or something. Angela and I exchanged a look. I didn't see smoke. I smelled nothing at all, which is the right answer. I'll say whichever you want, whatever you need. Just please set me free. Pick one. What? Smoke or no smoke? This is very important. No smoke. No, wait. Yes, smoke. Yes to smoke. You're certain? Yes, I'm sure of it. Smoke. Smoke. He was babbling now. I almost did want to set him loose. Tell us everything you saw. Every last detail of that night and the morning when you were caught. Again? Again? You want to hear it all again? I told you before, but you didn't believe me. You threw me in here. Please. Close to discovering something important, I'm sure of it. If there's anything in your account that we have missed, a detail about who was where and when, it can make all the difference. I brought the mail up late that night. Supposed to do it in the morning, but I wanted to do it early, see? Got word from Catherine that she wanted to see me. Parked the cart in the front stable, gave the mule something to eat, snuck up to the dorms like I normally do. I fucked Catherine good and proper, and then we fell asleep. Good and proper! Woke up to somebody banging on all the doors, saying to get up now, something horrible had happened. Catherine left first and told me to leave out the window to get to my cart. Said her door was too squeaky for me to leave safely, see? I'm no climber. I panicked and bolted out the door as soon as I could. Noise be damned! I saw that dopey sister of yours coming through the archway where I'd have to pass through to get to me cart, so I turned around. Then I just run around the long way. But then you found me. He pointed at Angela again. And now here I am. Not but the devil to keep me company. Is there anything else? No! I jumped. As I said, I'll tell you whatever you want. Just let me out of here. We spoke to your family the other day. Let them know about you like you asked. Do you think I could see them like this? They should never see me again. There's no one left for me. Just me and the prince. The prince? The only one who can help me. He lets me out, you know? Gives me things to do. Says I can earn my freedom another way. What are you talking about? Is he going crazy? He's a funny old sort. Voice like a woman dressed all in black. Blacker even than you lot. Can't see his face. Pretty boy sounds like. He brings me gifts. He's helping me get out of here. Faster than you lot. Is this the demon monster thing? Dressed all in black? That's scary as fuck, man. That's scary as fuck, man. He lets you out? Not for long, keeps me on a leash. Gives me very specific instructions. Can't run off or he'll kill my poor folks. There's fair, I suppose. Can't complain, he's giving me real help. This is ridiculous, his mind is utterly gone. These are the dreams of a desperate man. Look! Look! He scurried over to a corner of his cell. There was not much light, but eventually I could see what he was gesturing at. When I recognized it, I gasped. No fucking way! No! What on earth is it? A spell! One that'll set me free! All I have to do is what the devil asks! And that is a small, small price to pay compared to what you lot have put me through. No! Angela, we have to get out of here right now! Calm down, Hedwig, it means nothing. He is mad. No, I mean it, Angela! James began to laugh a horrible, raspy cackle. Explain yourself, Hedwig. I've seen that circle before, in the walls of the Abbey! Get a hold of yourself. She whipped her arm forward and gripped my right ear, tugging me back up the stairs into the rain. I could still hear James's horrid cackling echoing throughout the dungeon below. What is the matter with you? That thing on the wall, it's real. I don't know what it is, but it works. It summoned that creature I saw the night everyone thought I was playing a prank. I thought that was Eustace. It wasn't Eustace. She claims it was, but I've seen it too many times now. I've seen it while Eustace was standing right in front of me. Flora drew that same sigil on a wall, deep in a hidden passage, and I think it summoned something terrible. She insisted it wasn't meant to do that, but seeing it again here, what else could it be for? Whoever gave James that information gave it to Flora as well, and it works. In the background, James's laughter had given way to a horrid dry wheeze. How the fuck did it get there? The guy from the prologue, perchance? Holy shit. I had totally forgotten about that prologue. Jesus. I had completely forgotten about that. Yes, there's a plot to kill the king! What the fuck, man? Flora drew a magic circle on the walls of Lynbarrow. Yes! This is the mystery holding me back from accusing Eustace and calling it a day. As obvious as her behavior is, it does not satisfy all my questions. That is understandable. We absolutely must focus on what we know is real first. James says he saw smoke. That is our North Star as far as I'm concerned. I agree that is important, but you must believe me. Flora wasn't simply unlucky. She didn't get her leg caught in the door purely by accident. When I found her, she was being chased by something. It was a terrible beast, billowing smoke, and it smelled of brimstone. I would not tell you this if I did not think it was important, Angela. Please believe me. Please, please believe me. If I accept this story, what would it change? What could we do differently? That young man is hungry, thirsty, and most likely mad. He would say anything to upset us. And if he is telling the truth, what would change? If the devil has agents walking the earth and offering James bargains, would our role not still be to do the Lord's work? To do things the right way? If he is making deals with the devil, that is his loss. Perhaps we can save his soul as well as his life. But Angela, I've seen this beast he speaks of, the faceless figure. I've seen it outside my cell and on the landings of the abbey and atop the tower overlooking the garden. Coincidences. There tend to be a lot of people dressed up all in black around Abby's, Hedwig. What about creatures that bring the very fires of hell with them wherever they go? Or ghosts that can light swords aflame? Did you really see those things, Hedwig? Yes! Sister Angela, do you remember that night in the workshop? I know you must fear something greater is at work here because you asked me if I thought we were all in danger. I answered honestly. I said yes because I had just been face to face with a creature straight out of the darkest recesses of hell. If this is true, why haven't you fled this wretched abbey? I hardly believe you are that brave or that stupid. Because I have work to do, Angela, just like you. Angela stared at me through the rain. She looked disbelieving, but also, dare I say it, impressed. Then I must ask again, what should we do? Is Eustace your suspect, or is Satan? I peered through the rain towards the abbey, far in the distance. One is much easier to deal with than the other. You're right. All we can do is focus on what we know is real first. Perhaps we can find the truth before the devil wins. Angela nodded. In that case, we should be getting back. There's nothing else we can get out of that poor wretch now. Okay, something I'm not quite sure I understood. The magic circle in James's cell, is that literally the stone that was missing from the secret passage? Or is that just the same spell drawn in his cell? I'm not sure. It was raining even harder by the time we made it back to the abbey. Angela guided us through the outer courtyard, where I had fainted in front of Catherine, where I had stared down the beast, and toward the treacherous stairs I had carried Flora down. We shall split up here. I'll head up the stairs and through the door, and you can continue on to the cloister, just in case prying eyes wonder why we have been traveling together. A sound idea. Should we tell the superior about our discovery? I think she might overreact. Let Moira or somebody else bringing James meals report it to her if they notice it. Our job is to piece a whole story together, not jump at every shadow. Very well. I suppose if James did manage to summon a monster, it'd just as likely kill him as any of us. And then we'd all have bigger problems. Nobody's summoning any monsters, Hedwig. I hope she was right. She began to climb the stairs. The hook finally tugged at me. You said I would be rewarded. Excuse me? Last night, you mentioned I would be rewarded for my work. I think I performed admirably today. Holy shit, Hedwig! God damn! Treat, 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 treat. That's what she's saying right now. Angela smiled ruefully. Have I overstepped? It hardly seems like an appropriate time. We have work to do. I had no argument for her. I said nothing. After a moment, she snorted. Very well. She turned away again, but then... Ah! She hiked up her skirt to reveal her bare bottom. I stared in silence, satisfied. Yes. No, you aren't. But that will be all you get for now. She got a treat! Holy shit! Oh my god! Hedwig is on a short leash. And Angela's literally her fucking owner. Oh my god! Sleepy! Sleepy, you have missed some fucking scenes. Some fucking scenes! She let the cloth fall back to the ground. Whatever depravity you engage in with the others in the course of your mission, remember that I am the only one who truly understands what you want. What is that? The impossible. The thing just out of your reach. All the pleasures of Sodom would leave you empty. A glimpse of flesh where it shouldn't be excites you more than anything a man could give you in the bedroom, or one of these sisters could give you behind closed doors. Am I correct? I think you have thought about this far more than I ever have. There was that smile again. Of course. We will reconvene tomorrow night in the garden. Yes, Angela. The fucking yes, Angela. This girl is owned! This girl is fucking owned! Holy shit! She left up the stairs and I hurried towards the cloister. I hoped that nobody would see how red my face was. I was feeling rather motivated. Oh yeah? Oh yeah? Now you're motivated? Huh, Hedwig? Now you're motivated? Is that right? A touch jumpy. Perhaps I should have taken a breather, settled down for a moment. A million ideas were bouncing around inside my head, however. The sky was gray. I hoped that I had not missed my opportunity to speak to Flora. As I restlessly paced back and forth in front of the cellar stairs, I heard an odd sound. Ah! I looked around. There was no immediately apparent source. Just then I heard another sound. The familiar clunking of Flora's wheelbarrow being dragged up the stairs. Here we are. Did either of you just hear that odd sound just now? Something of a whistle. Maybe. Bit hard to hear anything over this thing bouncing around. I did not hear anything. No matter. There were more pressing things to attend to. Thank you, Darcy. And thank you for agreeing to this, Sister Flora. I didn't agree to anything. Darcy just sort of yanked me away. Sorry about that. Whatever. Oh, Hedwig, by the way, you still want to help me with the sheep? Oh, right. Oh, of course, I would love to help you, Darcy. I just couldn't bear to disappoint her. She beamed at me. It will be fun. This is the big one. You will be taking them down to the village to be stabled for the rest of the year. There will be snow soon, and they will freeze up in those mountains. We're herding them all the way down to the village? Goodness, that will be quite a trek. We will be back just in time for supper, I imagine. It's quite a busy day. Haha. Anyway, I am going to go and prepare for that. Come and find me by the archway when you are ready, Hedwig. Very well. Can we get this over with? I'm sorry, Flora. I didn't mean to pull you away from your work or your friends. You've been treating me odd ever since I got my legs stuck in the door. You hate cripples or something? That's not fair. I might have saved your life that night. Why do you treat me like common vermin, then? Sister Flora, I would rescue you 1,000 more times if I had to, but I find some of your recent behavior astounding. Forgive me if I have a hard time speaking with you. My behavior? The hell are you on about? I moved behind her and picked up the handles of the wheelbarrow. If you try to dump me down the stairs, I'll scream. Don't be ridiculous. I'm just going to take us somewhere more private. I maneuvered the cart over the cobblestones, wondering where a good place to speak would be. I would rather not speak at all, but my big fat mouth had chastised Flora before my rational mind had been able to ward me away from disaster. There weren't many places free from rain. I decided that the opposite corner of the cloister would have to do. I set the handles down as gently as I could and then stood in front of Flora, my arms folded. I'm sorry, I should not have said all of that in front of Sister Darcy, but you have made my life very difficult. Poor you. Go on then, let's get it over with. My behavior? I've been stuck in this bloody barrow. I couldn't behave any sort of way even if I wanted to. What have you been hiding from me? Hiding from you? We barely had time to talk to each other since I admitted, you know, the sigil. Last time we spoke about that, you were very withholding. I need you to tell me everything you know. Now. I did! Please don't lie to me, Sister Flora. You wouldn't tell me where you learned of it or what it does. And now I've seen another one just like it. I can't tell you. All I know is that thing isn't my fault. It can't be. Why not? It's been here for ages. You'd seen it before that night? Yeah. couple times. That would have been before I finished the circle. When did you see it? Told you one already. Remember my ghost story back in the Misericorde? The figure you saw outside of the Superior's office. Hello, motherfucker! Dressed all in black, chat room. That's the one. Can pass through walls and things, I think. What do you mean? Well, when I saw it in the office, I hid as soon as I saw something at the window. It was definitely outside, yeah? But I heard it moving around inside for sure. My goodness. I saw it once before then, too. Up on the tower near the garden. Aha! I tensed up. This detail echoed eerily with things I had seen myself. What was it doing? Not sure. It looked like it was holding something or throwing something, but I didn't want to stick around. I was a bit worried it would see me. Maybe it did, and that's why it tried to kill me. It's changing, you know. It looks a little different now. When I saw it in the hallway my first night here, it looked different than when it chased us. Yeah, it's like it's growing or something. I don't think it's Catherine anymore, just so you know. It's something else. Have you told anyone else about this? Has anyone else seen it? Damn it, wrong voice. God, no. Everyone would think I'd gone completely mad. Well, I don't think you're going mad, but I do need you to tell me all about that sigil, even if you think it didn't summon that beast. Not that. I'm sorry, I've said everything I can say about it. Flora, please. This is extremely important. It's important to me as well. I can't tell anyone. Where did you find out about it? How'd you learn about magic sigils in the first place? What, you think you can wear me down? I don't want to talk about this, Hedwig. You have to tell me. No, I don't. What are you going to do, eh? Smack it out of me? I raised my hand instinctively and I saw Flora tense up in her seat. If I have to! This is deathly, gravely important, Flora. I stopped myself for slapping her across the back of the head, but it wasn't out of mercy. A better idea had crossed my mind. I marched behind the wheelbarrow and gripped the handles and spun Flora around to roll her out into the rain. Oh my god, Hedwig! Hedwig, come on! I stood under the stone ceiling, gripping the wheelbarrow handles tightly. Rain began to fall onto Flora, gently pinging against her metal boot. She cackled. What the hell? You are fucking insane! And you may well be an agent of Satan, willingly or unwittingly. I promise you that circle isn't anything evil, alright? I won't tell you what it does or who told me about it, but I can give you my word it's nothing too nefarious. That's not good enough. The very medium is nefarious. Look, I know it's not good, it's not biblical or anything, but it's got nothing to do with inviting anything evil to the Abbey. Like I said, what's evil here has been here for longer than me or you. I've seen it all over. Darcy's probably seen it. She talks about how haunted this place is all the time. I'd wager that those other ghost stories they all told in the Misericorde that night were the same thing. You need to tell me what it was meant to do, Flora, and who taught it to you. She shifted in her seat. She was getting uncomfortable. It's not related, I swear it. I fucked up, I'm bad, you can hate me all you like for dabbling in magic and whatnot, but I'm telling you, the two aren't related. I'm not moving until you tell me what I need to know. Suits me. What, you think I'm gonna drown in this drizzle? She shifted in her seat again. What does it matter so much? I swear to you, that circle has nothing to do with that ghost. I've already proven it to you, yeah? It existed well before I carved anything. I need to know more. Or what, you'll tell the Superior I carved something nasty on her Abbey's walls? If I have to. Go ahead. Maybe she'd send me away, get me out of here for good. She'd send you to a tribunal, perhaps. The bishop is here. Your punishment would probably be harsh and swift if he thought you had been trifling with devilry. It's supposed to be some sort of transportation spell, alright? Takes you away. Where? Dunno. That never really mattered to me. Listen, can you bring me back under the roof? I'm getting soaked. Who taught it to you? I can't say. And I won't. I wouldn't tell anyone. I made a promise. Was it Eustace? I'm not saying. I paused for a moment. Was it Catherine? Catherine the Second? Fuck off. No, it wasn't. The magic circle being transportive made some sort of sense, I suppose. At the very least, I believe that she believed that's what it was for. Laura had expressed a desire to leave before, and naturally, that would be the kind of magic James would want in his predicament. Even if he, too, was being taught something far more dangerous. But Flora wasn't budging on the source. It was infuriating, but I felt a pang of guilt watching the raindrops pelt her hood. I wheeled her back into the hall. Okay. It's a transportation spell. So, that would very much invite someone from a different place into here. Maybe not a devil, but something dressed up as one. You really won't tell me? Never, especially not now. What the hell was all that about? I'm sorry, it's just I need to find out more about this beast. Doesn't it bother you knowing it's out there? I don't feel safe. If I hadn't been there the night your leg was broken, yeah, well, we'll just have to learn to live with it. I did. We all did. And it isn't my fault. I carved that thing slowly. The ghost was showing up well before it was even close to finished. I never got to finish it, in fact. So that's that. Maybe I'm hellbound from messing around with magic, but I did it for good reasons, and I can rest easy knowing I didn't summon that thing. I'm comfortable keeping my promise. And please don't tell the superior I carved anything. Just then, 2 pairs of footsteps came echoing down the cloister. Oi! Lyra! What? Me and Bridget were looking all over for you. I was about to go play chess in the library and wanted to know if you'd come along. A bare smile flickered over Flora's face. Violet kept scratching and adjusting her hood. Chess is for 2 people, though. We play fast. We can take turns. Have you all completed your work for the day? Didn't have any. Only a tour from the superior. She's nice, isn't she? Bit stuck up and all, but not too bad. Nicer than my old one, that's for certain. The library's locked today, I believe. Eh? You knocked earlier and Sister Eustace said we could use it. Oh. Whatever Eustace had been doing was finished then. In that case, would you all mind if I came along? Oh, I suppose so. I was hoping we wouldn't have a chaperone. It's only chess. We aren't looking to burn the place down. Oh, no, I don't intend to get in the way. I don't want to play chess, but I wasn't able to get my own work done today, since the library was locked up. You have to work in the library? Violet, let her. You don't have the right to say where the other sisters can and can't work. Well, no, but, you know, courtesy and all that. It's fine. Let her. Hedwig is no trouble. Flora was offering me a baleful look. Was this a peace offering? An apology? Was she afraid of me? Regardless, I moved to pick up her wheelbarrow and guided the young sisters towards the stairs up to the 2nd floor. Oh god, I don't want to fucking stop, but it's 10! False signs and wonders! Damn! I was just thinking to myself too, man, I hope this is an extra long chapter. No, it's 10:03. This is it for story time tonight, chat. I hope you're all having as much fun as I am, because I am having fun. Even if some of the scenes got me red all over. Thank you for story and cheeks. You're welcome, Sleepy. Anytime, buddy. I implore you to check the VOD for some events. Alright. Thank you for watching, everyone. More Misericorde Volume 2 tomorrow night. I promise. See you later. Bye-bye.